Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 96, No Skills, All Emotions, 1. Chapter 96, No Skills, All Emotions, 1. They returned to the flag-raising square. It was unknown when the canteen staff had moved some kitchenware here to help cook. The main thing was that Jiruo used raw rice to fry rice. Although the teachers also knew iron palm, their iron palm could not fry rice. Moreover, there wasn't even a spatula on Jiruo's cart. The principal simply called the staff of the canteen and used some of the ordinary spirit herbs and beast meat stored in the school to prepare a feast. In the square, many students had lost part of their limbs because of this martial exam. They were all bandaged, but none of them were absent from today's speech. Because of Jiruo's encouragement, the originally miserable wounded were all smiling. Jiruo even saw some students waving their crutches, sitting on the ground and telling other students about their future dreams. Seeing this, Jiruo couldn't help but think of what Liang Shixian had just said about donating blood and sharing the remaining medicinal power of the life fruit with others. Jiruo took a deep breath and found the principal. "Principal, can I discuss something with you?" If there's anything you need, just say it. As long as number 1 high school can do it, we'll definitely do it for you. If it's really not possible, I'll go to the city to apply for resources for you." "There's no need to apply for resources. Principal, you also know that I add spirit herbs and demon beast meat into my fried rice, right?" Jiruo scratched his head. "After that, I want to put in some marrow cleansing spirit herbs. Can you tell the students that these spirit herbs are provided by the school?" The principal was stunned. "No, classmate Jiruo, you should also know how precious marrow cleansing spirit herbs are, right? I know that you might have gained a lot from this martial examination. I'm also very happy that you're willing to take it out to help others, but you're already not earning money, so why are you pushing your good reputation away? It's like this. Won't there be some side effects after taking a marrow cleansing type of spirit herb?" Jiruo asked. "I'm worried that someone will come looking for trouble, so it's better for the school to explain. As for reputation, if doing good was to become famous, then what good was it?" But the principal hesitated. This great reputation was indeed a good thing for number 1 middle school, but it was all thanks to Jiruo. Now, Jiruo didn't want anything. The school only needed to give an explanation to gain such a huge reputation. Jiruo saw the principal's hesitation and smiled. "If you feel bad, just say that these spirit herbs were provided by a good person." He reached out to touch the bright red scarf on his chest and said with a smile, "Good Samaritan, let's call you Red Scarf." Classmate Jiruo. The principal opened his mouth. He was truly baptized by this pure youth. "Then it's settled," Jiruo said happily. After saying that, Jiruo returned to his small stall and continued to work. Was this white-haired youth a fool? Of course not. Most of the elixirs produced by Myriad Beast Mountain only had obvious effects on martial apprentice realm or Kami realm martial artists. A slightly high-grade spirit medicine had to be produced by the mountain god. Wood. What were these spirit herbs exchanged for? It was fertilizer. Marrow cleansing type spirit medicines were not of a high level and were not very useful to slightly higher level martial artists. After all, martial arts was a process of developing the human body. Once the realm was reached, the physical body would naturally become pure. However, for ordinary people or martial apprentices, the effect was not small. Marrow cleansing spirit herbs would wash away the impurities in the human body. To put it simply, eating them would cause diarrhea. If he didn't make it clear in advance, it would be very easy for misunderstandings to occur. Liang Shixian had already told Jiruyi the location of the manure pit. If Jiruyi wanted to save more, he would send it to Grandpa Shan Shenmu. 4 days had passed since the end of the martial examination. At the entrance of number 1 middle school. With the school's guarantee, Jiruo's food stall was completely established. Liang Shixian's face was pale as he helped Jiruo. The food in this stall was easy to get diarrhea, but there were many customers. The stall owners already knew that Ji was selling spirit herbs. Even though the spirit herbs were all from the school, they still couldn't help but sigh. The stalls were closed for the past 2 days. The stall owners lent their tables and chairs to Jiruo as a form of friendship and came to help. Jiruo was going to refuse at first, but the stall owners smiled and said, "We can't donate such expensive things when others donate spirit herbs, but we can still help if we can." Thus, Jiruo accepted it. Other than that, another interesting thing happened. Jiruo's speech yesterday, as well as the song Chasing Dreams with Pure Heart and the scene when Jiruo set up his stall, had been taken by someone and posted online. In just one day, there were already hundreds of thousands of likes and comments. This child said it so well. Who wrote this song? Was it also this white-haired youth? The lyrics are really good. Indeed, there are no techniques, it's all emotions. The first time I heard it, I was so excited that I got up in the middle of the night to practice a set of boxing. Wow. What a cute little kitty. She even helped to wash the vegetables. She was too sensible. Coordinates are at the entrance of Yuncheng First Middle School. Card in and come quickly. Jiruo looked at the comments and felt a heartache. There were many uncles and aunties who praised him in the comments, but perhaps it was because he didn't meet them in person. Jiruo didn't receive a single red flower. However, he also saw that many people said that they would come here to support him. They had money and materials to donate, which was quite comforting. If those people came, they would probably give him a little red flower, right? Jiruo looked forward to it. Education Division. Old Gu, you don't have to leave. The newly appointed Secretary of Education looked at Gu Xingzhou, who was packing his things, with a complicated expression. I've already submitted my resignation letter and the higher UPS have approved it. I've also handed over my work. This matter isn't entirely your fault. Don't say such words anymore. Gu Xingzhou said, the mistake has already been made. It's useless to say anything now. You should properly formulate the new martial examination system. I won't get involved. Sigh. The new secretary sighed and did not try to persuade him anymore. Oh right, regarding the reward for that child, you must consider my suggestion carefully. That thing can only be of the greatest use in the hands of that child. Anyway, the teleportation device is now abandoned. It's useless for you to keep that thing. Don't worry about that. The new director said, I actually came to tell you that the higher UPS have already agreed to that matter. I've also seen the child's information. He's a good child. If what happened in the mountain of 10,000 beasts in your report is true, I'm also in favor of giving him the thing. So you didn't come here specifically to send me off? Gu Xingzhou was stunned. You're a grown man, don't you know the way? The new director scolded. Why should I give it to you? Hey. You didn't even send a senior off when he left his job. Is there anyone like you who is so stupid? Chapter 97, when I come back, I'll treat you to a drink. Chapter 97, when I come back, I'll treat you to a drink. 5. The two of them argued with each other for a while. The new secretary suddenly asked, what do you plan to do after you leave the game? To Myriad Beast Mountain. Gu Xingzhou said, the Myriad Beast Mountain's secret realm portal control plan has to be implemented as soon as possible. That child has to go to university later, so he definitely won't have much time to go to the Myriad Beast Mountain to complete the agreement. It just so happens that I've left my job now, so I'm quite familiar with the Divine Mountain Tree. I can go and help guard it. Don't worry. The control plan for Myriad Beast Mountain has long been formulated and is already being implemented. If we can really reach a friendly and cooperative relationship, it will indeed be a great thing. The new secretary said, what about after that? I mean, after the situation in Myriad Beast Mountain stabilizes, you can't possibly stay in Myriad Beast Mountain forever, right? After all, the upper limit of the Myriad Beast Mountain mystic realm was only at the 4th level. After that, Gu Xingzhou thought for a moment. After everything stabilizes, I'll probably go to the front line to kill demons and become a true martial artist. All these years sitting in the office, my bones are almost rusted. Suddenly, Gu Xingzhou's phone lit up. It was a few push messages. A white-haired martial arts examination young man set up a stall, his iron palm has reached perfection. Netizen, this song doesn't have any technique. It's all about emotions. What does red scarf mean? Donating a large number of spirit herbs and not leaving a name for doing good deeds. Ignoring the first two pieces of news, Gu Xingzhou happily clicked on the third piece. See, there are still many good people in this society. Although the price of spiritual herbs will plummet soon, to be able to take out a large number of spiritual herbs to donate at this time without leaving their real names. Cloud City. Gu Xingzhou had intended to share it with the new secretary, but he was suddenly stunned. He saw a few keywords. Low-grade marrow cleansing spirit herbs, Cloud City First Middle School, public toilets full. There seemed to be no connection between these few things, but Jiruo was a student of Yuncheng First Middle School. Other than the initial description of the matter, the rest of the news was an estimate of the value of the spirit herbs and a guess about the identity of the kind person with the red scarf. Because he didn't know who the kind-hearted person was, he couldn't attach a picture. Therefore, this news article was a photo of Jiruo setting up a stall at the school gate. Although Jiruo had already turned white, Gu Xingzhou still recognized him at a glance. Yeah, there are still many good people in this society. The new director glanced at the news content, smacked his lips, and said, but why didn't you reveal your real name? Wasn't this a good thing? To be able to donate so many spirit herbs, He definitely did not lack money. But why did he not even want fame? He lacks money. Gu Xingzhou said in a daze. What? I know who donated it. You know. The new director was stunned. How did you know? Gu Xingzhou opened the picture and zoomed in. He brought the smiling white-haired young man in front of the new director and said, "You don't know how to read it yourself? Such an obvious red scarf. This is the red scarf." The new director was a little confused. What else? I asked you if it was red. The new director rolled his eyes. Gu Xingzhou ignored him and carefully read the news. The only description of the picture was a simple sentence: the white-haired young man worked part-time to study and sold spirit herb fried rice for the school. Then, Gu Xingzhou clicked on other news. Since Jiruo was involved in this matter, everything made sense. The ancient star continent knew that Jiruo had a large number of low-grade spirit herbs on him. Marrow-cleansing spirit herbs would cause diarrhea. If Jiruo wanted to fulfill his promise, he definitely couldn't lack these things. Beside him, the new secretary was also watching the news. He saw Jiruo singing the song Chasing Dreams with a pure heart. A hoarse voice rang out in the office. The two powerful martial artists could not help but be moved by the power in the voice. You sang really well. It's indeed very good. Gu Xingzhou smiled as he picked up his things and said, since the higher UPS have already decided, then leave that thing to me. Before I leave, I want to see that child and bring him the reward that should belong to him. The new secretary didn't think too much about it and immediately agreed. Gu Xingzhou turned around and left. Looking at Gu Xingzhou's departing back, the new secretary could not help but say, when are you coming back? Why? I haven't left yet and you're already missing me. You should be a good secretary. Next time I come back, I'll treat you to a drink. Gu Xingzhou smiled. When? My funeral. The new secretary sighed. He knew that Gu Xingzhou blamed himself for this martial examination and had placed all the blame on himself. The former director looked relaxed, but he was actually very sad. He knew that the ancient star continent had no intention of returning after leaving. Why are you sighing? I'm a martial artist. Which martial artist sits in the office every day? Gu Xingzhou smiled and said, I also want to see what this world looks like. I want to see how the water flows, how the flowers bloom, and I want to see those holy statues on the border. I'm not suitable to be a secretary. Gu Xingzhou laughed loudly as he walked out of the office. With every step he took, his face looked younger. When he reached the door, the middle-aged man turned into a young man. He had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and his aura was flourishing. After sitting in this office for a few years, I've grown old. Now that I'm all alone, I can finally return to my original self, ha 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 ha. The new secretary didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Outside the office, many staff members of the education division looked at the former director who had returned to his original appearance with mixed feelings. Gu Xingzhou laughed loudly. Fellow colleagues, I don't know when we'll meet again after today. I have a question that I've been wanting to ask all of you. A staff member asked curiously. Am I handsome? The employees were stunned. The new secretary scolded him from behind, get lost. He was, after all, a former secretary of the education department. Why would he ask such a childish question? Shameless. Gu Xingzhou's carefree laughter lingered in the air above the education department. This young martial artist had finally been relieved of the heavy burden of being the head of a department and could do what he wanted to do. Killing demons and fighting against saints to atone for his sins. It was night. Jiruo parked the cart at the entrance of the guard room. Grandpali, can you help me take a look at the car? I'm going to the toilet. The guard's surname was Li and he knew Jiruo. In other words, in the past 2 days, all the staff members of Noel Middle School had gotten to know Jiruo. They all liked this pure and happy youth. Go ahead, go ahead. Hee, I'll help you keep an eye on him. Thank you, Grandpali. Jiruo said politely. Meow dash, thank you, Grandpali. Rosie waved her little claws and said. Hee, little Rosie is so obedient. Grandpali said cheerfully. The owner was a good child, and the pet was also a good cat. Chapter 98, Chapter 98, this fertilizer needs to be dried in the sun. Chapter 98, this fertilizer needs to be dried in the sun. 1. Jiruo entered the school and ran straight to the manure pit. First-line instinct planned out a path that would not be discovered for him so that he could sneak in safely. Jiruo walked through the night. After leaving the guard room, everywhere he went was a blind spot. Meow dash, so smelly. Rosie covered her nose with her paw and frowned. This is a manure pit. How can it not stink? Jiruo laughed. He did not know when he had stuffed 2 tissues into his nose, but he did not feel that it was smelly. It just looks a little disgusting. The white-haired youth stood at the edge of the manure pool and summoned the card collection booklet. The fantasy dominator's creation, the Wanxiang mirror card with a long and cute name, appeared in Jiruo's hand. Myriad manifestation blink. Suddenly, a portal in the shape of a blood-red vortex with a diameter of half a meter appeared before Jiruo. He hadn't paid much attention to it before. The teleportation door created by the Omnizo mirror seemed to be somewhat similar to the teleportation device used in the martial examination. Little Rosie was a little excited when she sensed the familiar aura coming from the other side of the portal. Jiruo Kai's portal was too small for him to go through by himself. Of course, he didn't want to go through it alone because it would consume too much energy. Jiruo stuck his head out, only his head had passed through the portal. Grandpa Shenmue. Jiruo looked at the huge pink sacred mountain tree and called out loudly. The sacred mountain tree slowly turned around. The abstract face on the tree trunk that was originally twisted by tree patterns now had an obvious flesh texture. Thick vines hung down from both sides of the tree trunk, like the eyebrows of an old man. Its body was so huge that it could cover the sky, but it did not look terrifying. Instead, it looked kind. It's little Ruo. Have you finished eating the spirit herbs? Not yet, but I do plan to change some. Jiruo grinned. Grandpa Shenmue, please get ready. I've brought the fertilizer. So fast. The sacred mountain tree was slightly surprised. Tree demons had long lifespans, especially for existences like the divine mountain tree, which controlled the entire mystic realm's earth vein. If no accidents happened, their lifespans could be counted in thousands of years. Moreover, according to the sacred mountain tree's understanding, it would probably be next year if he fulfilled his promise with him. After all, a human like Jiruo would only come to Myriad Beast Mountain once a year. How can it be fast? I've already made you wait for several days. Jiruo scratched his head in embarrassment. Please make room. I'll put the fertilizer for you now. A moment later, the sacred mountain wood was ready. A large group of tree demons surrounded him, and the rustling of leaves translated into expectant words in Jiruo's ears. They stretched out their branches in the direction of Jiruo's voice, waiting to be fed. Jiruo smiled and retracted his head. He made a rough estimation of the consumption. His chi meridians were now split, and his chi and blood power could no longer be judged by the standards of a normal chi meridians realm martial artist. The consumption of energy to travel through a brain wasn't that great. The next moment, Jiruo raised his finger and opened the portal at the bottom of the manure pit. A vortex appeared in the center of the pool, and the position line quickly descended. Non-living creatures transmigrated, and the consumption was even lower. According to Jiruo's current recovery ability, the consumption and recovery were barely equal. Not long after, the entire pond was emptied and moved to the Myriad Beast Mountain mystic realm. Jiruo faintly heard the cheers of the treants coming from the other side of the teleportation gate. He smiled slightly and was about to open another teleportation gate to exchange for medicinal herbs. Wait. He raised his hand and summoned the Omnizo mirror in front of him again. Looking at the blood-red vortex portal with a diameter of half a meter, he thought about what he had just used this portal for. Suddenly, he felt a little disgusted. In a trance, Jiruo even felt that the edge of the portal was stained with something dirty. This mirror can't be used anymore. Not to mention Jiruo, even Luo Qian was a little disgusted. Meow meow, master feels so dirty. It was just that the Wanxiang mirror could not speak, otherwise it would definitely curse. Rosie, use your mirror to open a portal for me. I can't use mine anymore. I hate it. Of course, Jiruo also knew that there was definitely nothing dirty on the portal, but he still despised it. Meow dash master, don't meow. Meow, meow. My mirror is so beautiful. I don't want to use it to open this thing. It's so dirty, Rosie said pitifully. The young man subconsciously took a deep breath, but halfway through, he suddenly remembered where he was. His breathing stopped and he coughed loudly. Who would take a deep breath in the toilet? Forget it, use mine. Jiruo sighed. His chi and blood spun at high speed in his palm, forming two spiral balls. He then rubbed the portal with great force with a look of disdain. Although Jiruo knew that this would not actually be of any use, at least he felt better. A moment later, Jiruo stuck his head out with a look of disgust and went through the brain transmigration. There are actually so many, the sacred mountain tree said happily. Little Ruo, thank you so much. As long as you're happy, Grandpa Sacred Mountain would. Jiruo forced a smile. Little Ruo, what do you want this time? Just say it. As long as it can grow, I can give it to you. Shasha dash, brother tree of God, don't be polite. Just tell me what you want. I'm not in a hurry. Grandpa Shenmue, there's something I want to tell you first. It's Jiruo said. The fertilizer you usually get may not be a lot, but this time, it's quite a lot. I'll send you some later. My personal suggestion is that before you use the fertilizer, it's best to dry it for a period of time to let the fertilizer mature. Otherwise, it might burn some of the tree demon brother's roots. There are more? Ha 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 ha. The sacred mountain tree was even more surprised. No problem. As the sacred mountain tree spoke, the tree branch shook. The huge root that covered the entire myriad beast mountain mystic realm actually directly pulled out the sun from afar. For a time, the sun and moon in the myriad beast mountain mystic realm were the same. Aunt Jing Ian's dissatisfied eagle cry came from the sky. Chirp dash, sacred mountain wood. What are you doing in the middle of the night? You flashed me. Little trickster Ruo is here. Shenmue said cheerfully. Then, Ji Ruo saw a terrifying scene. The divine mountain tree's crown, which was large enough to cover the sky, trembled, and a large number of pink cherry blossoms fell. A tree branch shot up into the sky and tore a small ball of light from the sun. After that, the sacred mountain tree stuffed the missing piece of the sun back into its original position. It pulled down the ball of light and exposed it to the sunlight at a close distance. Although he knew that the sun and moon in the myriad beast mountain's mystic realm were only the manifestation of the laws of extreme yang and extreme yin, and not the real sun and moon, he was still shocked to see such a scene. Tearing off a small piece of sunlight to dry the fertilizer. You're really awesome. Chapter 99, Chapter 99, A New Agreement, 1. Chapter 99, A New Agreement, 1. Chirp Trick Ruo is here. A slightly excited eagle cry sounded. Then, a strong wind blew. Aunt Jinglan carried the wind and thunder and quickly arrived at the top of the mountain. Chirp, what are you doing on the mountain top? Stinky bird. As soon as she arrived at the top of the mountain, Aunt Jinglan frowned. She was obviously not very satisfied with the smell of the top of the mountain. This is a gift from little Ruo. Hee hee, our tree demon clan relies on this to survive. We tree demons can't smell it. Aunt Jinglan looked at Jiruo, who was only sticking his head out of the portal, and said, Chirp Ruo, you prepared a gift for the sacred mountain tree. Did you prepare a gift for Auntie? I remember that you humans have a lot of fun things. Chirp. De Bao replied. Chiu Xin Chiao, chirp present. This young man had never prepared any gifts for Aunt Jinglan. He didn't even know that Aunt Jinglan would come. Wind God Falcon Shenmue chuckled. Chirp, have a name, my name is Jinglan. Alright, tranquil mist. The sacred mountain tree smiled. If little Tricky gave me fertilizer, it was because I would exchange it with spirit herbs. We pulled the hook before. Have you pulled the hook before? Aunt Jinglan was stunned when she heard that. Then, she was about to say something with a furious expression. Jiruo quickly said, I'm sorry, Auntie. I didn't expect you to come. I forgot to prepare a gift for you. How about this? What do you need? I'll prepare it for you in the next 2 days. Is that okay? Chirp, tricks are still good, hee hee. Aunt Jinglan smiled in satisfaction and said, Chirp, that the myriad beast mountain is under the control of me and the mountain god would, the other 4-star magical beasts don't dare to be mischievous with us. Those guys even take the initiative to send me food. Now, I don't even have to go out to look for food. It's quite boring to stay in the nest all day. Is there anything I can use to pass the time? Yes, yes. JL Kuo in Scanunon 01, Unit County give millimeter. I'll send it to you in a few days. Chirp, thanks for the little trick. Auntie here doesn't have so many spirit herbs like these tree demons, I don't know what to give you. How about this, in the future, whatever demon beast you want to eat, as long as there's one in the myriad beast mountain, Auntie will catch it for you. How about that? Okay, okay. Thank you. Jiruo smiled widely. He didn't expect to get such a surprise. Aunt Jinglan tilted her head and thought for a moment. Suddenly, she flapped her wings and shrunk her body. The strong wind formed a visible wind platform under her sharp claws. She stretched out her wings towards Jiruo and said, Chirp Q. No problem, pull the hook and hang yourself, you're not allowed to change for 100 years. After pulling the hook, Aunt Jinglan turned around to look at the sacred mountain tree. She raised her chin and snorted, Chirp, I've ticked too. Let's see how you're going to show off to me. Ahem, Anda, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. I still have to send more fertilizer to Grandpa Shenmue. Chirp, go. Grandpa Lee, I'm going home first. See you tomorrow. Goodbye, little tiny Ruo. Pushing the cart, Jiruo found a corner and put the cart into the card collection book. The card collection book could collect everything that belonged to Jiruo and was worth collecting. More importantly, after being turned into a card and put into the card collection book, Jiruo could use the little red flower to upgrade the card. According to the level of the item, the amount of red flowers needed to be consumed was different. Now, Jiruo mainly wanted to keep the red flowers to exchange for the corresponding material rewards for each achievement. Take the bright red scarf as an example. Those achievement rewards with weird and childish names were definitely not simple. Jiruo was busy until midnight when he finally emptied the public toilets near the school and the public toilets in the park that he often went to. That was the general idea. The sacred mountain tree laughed so hard that its trunk cracked open, unable to close up no matter what. It had only been a few days since the appointment. Jiruo had only sent him so much fertilizer, not to mention the sacred mountain tree. The other ordinary tree demons were so happy that they almost jumped up. If it wasn't for the fact that the tree demons couldn't jump up, they would have jumped up long ago. Grandpa Shenmue, that's all for this time. Ha ha ha. Little Ruo, thank you so much. Come, come, come. I've already prepared the spirit herbs for you. Take them. The sacred mountain tree stretched out a cluster of branches, densely covered with thousands of all kinds of spirit herbs and spirit fruits. This was not all. There were many branches lining up behind them. Not only that, the ordinary tree demons below had also prepared spirit herbs and spirit fruits for Jiruo. To these tree demons, the most worthless things were these spirit herbs and spirit fruits. They didn't eat these things, they just happened to be in the process of growing. Spiritual herbs and fruits that contained spiritual energy were only useful to flesh and blood creatures. Of course, they could also bury these spirit herbs and spirit fruits underground and wait for them to grow into demons to expand their tribe. However, the fertility of a piece of land was limited. If they really expanded their population on a large scale, the fertility of the land would be shared by the new plant demons. To put it bluntly, they would eat less, they would not be happy. Jiruo scratched his head and said, Grandpa Sacred Mountain Wood, I mainly want some marrow cleansing spirit herbs this time. The grade doesn't matter, as long as it has the effect of marrow cleansing. As for the rest, you can give me whatever you want. Aya, take them all. Anyway, these things are useless to us. They grow to be eaten by flesh and blood creatures. It doesn't matter who eats them. It's hard to refuse your kindness. I won't refuse it again. After storing a large number of spirit herbs and fruits in the Wanxiang mirror, Jiruo hesitated for a moment and said, Grandpa Shenmue, do you still have any more life fruit? If possible, I'd like to exchange some with you. I know that the life fruit is very precious. If it's possible, I want to. How much do you want? The sacred mountain tree didn't wait for Jiruo to finish speaking. It immediately split zeroed in its trunk and revealed the small lake filled with life essence. What, precious or not, if you want it, just take it. Anyway, this thing is useless to us plant demons. If we lose limbs, we can grow them back ourselves. Jiruo opened his mouth. I've roughly calculated, the sacred mountain tree continued. I can still condense 114 life fruits from the life essence stored here. You can take them all if you want. Is this enough? Oh, 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 oh. Enough, enough. No, it's too much. Jiruo did not expect the sacred mountain wood to give him everything. He had just opened his mouth. Actually, 100 or so was still not enough, but there were only so many sacred mountain trees left. Jiruo felt a little guilty that she had to take away all the feces in a few public toilets. Chapter 100, Chapter 100, Do you think this is growing grass, L? Chapter 100, Do you think this is growing grass, L? In the end, the sacred mountain tree forced 14 life fruits into Jiruo's mouth, saying that it was a round number that was easy to remember. Jiruo had only intended to exchange for one. Right now, there were many people in Great Xia who needed the fruit. The stock of the sacred mountain wood was definitely not enough. Moreover, Jiruo couldn't just give the fruit to others. Firstly, it was not because of the lack of people, but because of the uneven distribution. The main problem now was that there were too many people who needed the life fruit. If he could give the life fruit to those who needed it without any psychological burden. As the saying went, wool came from the sheep. These life fruits looked precious, but in fact, they were exchanged for people's feces. But he couldn't give away many people. Secondly, Jiruo couldn't explain the source of the life fruit. Sorry for making you spend so much money. Jiruo carefully put away the 14 life fruits of various shapes and sizes. One of the reasons why life fruits were precious was that they did not have a specific shape. They were spiritual fruits that could grow into whatever shape they wanted. What's there to spend money on, the sacred mountain tree said indifferently. If it was in the past, it might have been a little more troublesome for me to condense the body fruit. But now, if you and Jinglan help me control the earth vein of Myriad Beast Mountain, I have already fused with Myriad Beast Mountain. As long as I have enough life essence, I can bear as many of these fruits as I want. They're not precious. Jiruo was stunned for a moment, and his breathing suddenly quickened. If there was enough life essence, how many life fruits could be produced? What kind of concept was this? This was a life fruit. Although it couldn't revive the dead, it could flesh and bones. Why did the sacred mountain tree sound like grass? The young man thought of the students who had lost their limbs but were still affected by his singing at the flag-raising square. They said that they dreamed of becoming excellent logistics staff and contributing their strength to the stability of Great Xia. Although Jiruo wasn't familiar with those people, but if there was a chance, he could tell the higher UPS of Great Xia about this. Those surviving students, those patrolling martial artists who were lucky enough to not die, could be saved. After bidding farewell to the sacred mountain tree and agreeing to deliver fertilizer to the old tree's family after a while, Jiruo returned home with excitement. He didn't know how to contact the higher UPS, and it wasn't appropriate to ask the teachers at the school. If the teachers asked how Jiruo knew about this news, how should he answer? He couldn't go to the big leaders of Yunchen either. Even if he did, Jiruo couldn't guarantee that the other party would believe him. Jiruo was just a student. After searching online and thinking of all kinds of methods, Jiruo finally decided to send an email. He didn't care if anyone would believe him. He just sent an anonymous email to the official mailbox of each division. Do your best and listen to God's will. Although it was unlikely to be useful, it was still a plan. His relationship with the sacred mountain tree was not special. The sacred mountain tree, or rather, the tree demon tribe, was a peace-loving race. To them, it was already perfect to have the sun, rain, and fertilizer to absorb. They didn't like fighting and killing. Back then, the sacred mountain tree had brought its clan to the mountaintop with great fanfare. When it discovered that the so-called divine tree brothers were actually a blunder, its first reaction was to run. He didn't want to become enemies with the demons on the mountaintop at all. After spending about an hour, Jiruo finished writing the email and sent it to the official emails of all the departments in Great Xia that he knew. He took a simple shower and went to sleep with Luo Qian in his arms. His thoughts were good, but he had overlooked one thing. Recently, because of the martial examination, the various departments of Great Xia were extremely busy. The arrangements and compensation for injured or dead martial arts examines and patrolling martial artists, the formulation of the new martial arts examination system, and the distribution of resources. He asked a series of questions. The various departments were busy, and society was asking questions. Their email inbox was full every day, and many messages could not be processed in time. Most of the emails that were sent in multiple drafts were advertisements. They would be deleted by the official email system without even looking at them. Jiruo had never submitted a manuscript, so he didn't know. It was a big taboo to submit more than one manuscript. His mail had turned white. The next day, Jiruo woke up early. After washing up, she saw that there was a short black stubble growing out of her hair roots in the mirror. This was the natural growth of hair. Jiruo's current white hair was just that his black hair had been washed away. His new hair would naturally still be black. Jiruo knew this. But underneath his white hair was a layer of black stubble, and he didn't look very good. Therefore, Jiruo simply sang a song and washed his hair, washing his head white again. Little Rosie, do you want me to turn you into a white cat? Jiruo smiled and asked. Luo Qian's body trembled and she shook her head frantically. Meow, meow, meow. No, no. I'm not a white cat. Luo Qian had been living quite happily in human society with Jiruo these few days. There was no danger here, good food and drinks, and there were so many interesting people and things. She liked it here. Her sister had said that if she was exposed, she would definitely be taken revenge by the humans. At that time, she would definitely be thrown back to the Myriad Beast Mountain, and might even be beaten up ruthlessly. Therefore, she would not expose herself no matter what. Haha. Jiruo laughed loudly, picked up Luo Qian, and placed her on his head. Let's go. Let's go out and set up a stall. The good mood of the day began just like that. The red scarf on Jiruo's chest stored his happiness at the moment. Jiruo could clearly feel that the happiness in the red scarf had increased a little. There was no progress bar, and no specific data was presented. Happiness was happiness. How could it be expressed by numbers? Gu Xingzhou carried a large backpack and slowly walked towards Yun City. He didn't ride a car or run. He just walked and looked around. After leaving this time, he already had no intention of returning. Therefore, before he left, he wanted to take a good look at the mountains and rivers of Great Xia and remember everything in his heart. This warrior crossed the Green Mountains and waded across the river. He used his heart to remember and his body to feel it carefully. He wanted to remember all of this. It's so beautiful, but unfortunately I won't be able to see it in the future. Gu Xingzhou sighed. He thought of Jiruo, Liang Shixian, and all the high-spirited youths he had seen over the years as the secretary of the education department. He suddenly laughed. If you can't see it, then so be it. Haha. In order to let more people see this beauty, in order to let future generations and all the youths experience this beauty, someone had to sacrifice. I'm going to the border to kill demons. I can't think of anything. Let's go. Ha ha ha. May our Grand Xia prosper. More and more people saw the news. Jiruo's song, Jiruo's words, and the happy faces of the students from Cloud City First High School were seen by more and more people. Because of the accident in the martial examination this time, the atmosphere in the entire Great Xia was somewhat heavy. These things that suddenly appeared in Yun City were like a ray of light that pierced through the haze in many people's hearts. Some people wanted to come to Cloud City to experience the atmosphere. Some people wanted to come to Yuncheng to see the youth who could say those words. Some people wanted to come to Cloud City to see the little kitten that could help wash vegetables. All in all, many people were suddenly heading towards Yun City. Some people were confused, some people felt fresh, and some people just wanted to see that young man. Chapter 101, Chapter 101, The Reward for the Top Scorer, The Creation of the Fantasy Dominator, _1. Chapter 101, The Reward for the Top Scorer, The Creation of the Fantasy Dominator, _1. Class Monitor, do you have to work so hard? Looking at Liang Shixian, whose face was getting paler and paler, and his eyes were slightly sunken, Jiruo couldn't help but say, "If you act like this, those who don't know might think that you've rubbed too much." Liang Shixian smiled weakly and didn't even refute Jiruo. "I'm still young. It's just a little blood loss. It's easy to make up for it." "You, sigh." Jiruo sighed. "Don't say that I don't take care of you, class monitor. You don't have to work with me. I'll cook you a bowl of blood tonic soup." As he spoke, Jiruo took out a small clay pot from the bottom of the cart. He raised his knife and chopped up a handful of blood-replenishing spirit herbs. He put them into the clay pot and added water. Jiruo was holding the fried rice in one hand and the clay pot in the other. He activated his iron palm and let the high temperature gather in his palm. Jiruo had cooked a lot of food these days, and his iron palm was full of fireworks. If one sniffed carefully, one could even smell garlic, chopped green onions, pepper, soy sauce waiting for the taste of the seasoning. Stir-fried into the flavor belongs to. However, it was precisely because of this that Jiruo's iron palm's proficiency had not decreased, and he was getting closer and closer to his limit. Jiruo was also curious about what the iron palm would look like after it surpassed the level of perfection. Not long after, Jiruo had finished cooking the blood-replenishing soup. He had mixed it with many blood-replenishing spirit herbs, added with the delicious +3 effect of cooking, low level, and paired it with Jiruo's iron palm that was gradually getting tastier. The soup in the clay pot was boiling, and steam rose up. The fragrance was alluring. Some of the customers in the queue could not help but swallow their saliva when they smelled the fragrance. "Little boss, what soup did you make? How much? It smells so good. I want to drink it too." Because Jiruo had gone to the school to memorize in advance, almost everyone in Cloud City who knew that there was a stall selling spirit herb fried rice at the entrance of number 1 middle school knew that this white-haired little boss iron palm was superb. Among these people were students from other schools, office workers on vacation, and even the bosses of small companies who had specially brought their employees over. Not all of them were here to eat the spirit herbs fried rice. Most of them were here to watch the show. Everyone knew that these spirit herbs were mainly donated by the mysterious red-scarf gentleman to the students. Those who were not students did not eat them, and there were even many people who brought various drinks, snacks, and other things to set up stalls. They did not sell them for money, but just gave them to others and sat behind the stalls, having fun. "I'm sorry, this isn't for sale. I specially cooked it for the class monitor," Jiruo said with a smile. He turned around and handed the blood-replenishing elixir soup to the class monitor. "Here, class monitor. Be careful, it's hot. Take a break after drinking. You're already so old, why are you still so careful when doing such things? Look, you're weak, right?" Jiruo was referring to donating blood. However, perhaps Jiruo did not make it too clear. When the surrounding people heard Jiruo's words, they all looked at Liang Shixian and smiled. Smiling Eld was a little strange. Liang Shixian hadn't drunk the blood-replenishing elixir soup yet, but his pale face suddenly turned red. "Jiruo, can you explain clearly what you mean by doing this kind of thing?" "I'm going to donate blood." He took out the blood donation certificate and slammed it on the table. He said angrily, "I'm donating blood." "Donate blood?" The surrounding people were stunned. "Yeah, I'm talking about donating blood. Class monitor, what do you think it is? Did you secretly read something that the teacher didn't allow you to see behind my back again? What do you mean again? I've never seen it before." The surrounding people laughed out loud again, but this time, it was out of goodwill. Jiruo cheerfully said to Luo Jian, who was washing vegetables, "Little Rosie, please supervise the class monitor to drink the medicine." The title of culinary god came with medicinal cuisine, low level. Putting everything else aside, it was definitely not a problem to match it with a simple combination. It was nutritious and delicious, and his happiness doubled. Meow problem, master, leave it to me. Little Rosie straightened her body and promised confidently. As everyone except Jiruo was stunned, the little guy jumped onto the table in front of Liang Shixian with a small spoon. He stirred the clay pot twice with the spoon and scooped up a spoonful. He lowered his head and blew on it gently. His cat whiskers trembled slightly, and then he raised the spoon. Meow, blow, not hot, not hot. He didn't know where the little guy learned it. Even Liang Shixian, who knew that the little guy wasn't an ordinary cat, was stunned. Seeing that Liang Shixian didn't respond for a long time, Luo Jian frowned slightly. She couldn't help but put down the spoon and jumped onto Liang Shixian's shoulder. She reached out her claws and patted Liang Shixian's head, saying unhappily, Meow dash, hurry up and drink the soup, be obedient. Shixian. Because there were more and more people at the school gate, it had already affected the traffic situation in the surroundings. Moreover, this was the school gate. Why were there so many people blocking the school gate? It was not convenient for students to go to and from school. Therefore, the principal decided to give the students a break and let Jiruo and those kind-hearted people set up a stall in the school. This way, it would not affect the nearby traffic and the students in the school. More and more people came to join in the fun or eat the spirit herbal fried rice. Noel Middle School had become a temporary holy land. Chapter 102, Chapter 102, The Reward for the Top Scorer, The Creation of the Fantasy Dominator, _2. Chapter 102, The Reward for the Top Scorer, The Creation of the Fantasy Dominator, _2. Jiruo had been using his iron palm to fry rice, treating every customer seriously. The rice he cooked became more and more fragrant and delicious, and he harvested scattered little red flowers. Jiruo would be happy every time he got a little red flower. This was the simple and pure joy of collecting. In addition, there were more and more people going to the toilet. Jiruo roughly estimated that the stock of the public toilets near the school that he had drained last night was probably saved up again. If they could set up a stall and harvest the little red flowers, the others could reap health and happiness, and the entire tree demon tribe led by the sacred mountain tree could reap a large amount of fertilizer. This was a triple win. Classmate Jiruo. Suddenly, a guest walked up to Jiruo. Jiruo was about to greet the guest like how he had treated the previous guests, but when he looked up, he was stunned. You're still alive. That's great. The customer grinned. He didn't care about the missing teeth in his mouth. Teacher Li Jiruo was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, Are your injuries better? I'm not injured. I lost a few teeth in the nine-eyed demon spider's nest because of the poison of those monsters. Li Nanan laughed. Cough cough cough. Liang Shixian, who was being forced to drink the medicine by Luo Jian, suddenly choked and coughed violently. Jiruo was also a little embarrassed and quickly changed the topic. Rosie, don't rush him. Let the class monitor drink slowly. She looked at Jiruo in confusion. After thinking for a while, she stopped patting Liang Shixian's head and gently stroked the back of his head. This little kitten gave him the feeling that it was much more mature than Jiruo. Jiruo coughed dryly and looked at Li Nanan, asking, By the way, teacher, have you eaten? Are you hungry? Why don't I cook for you? Li Nanan was stunned for a moment. She suddenly remembered the day when Jiruo's face was covered in mud and he said he would cook bloody rice for her. Li Nanan chuckled and said, No need, no need. This is spirit herb fried rice. You should save it for someone who needs it more. I've already eaten it. I came here specially to thank you. Jiruo was a little embarrassed. Li Nanan had a smile on her face the whole time. The smile seemed to be reminding Jiruo of something. Li Nanan was obviously a good-looking female teacher, but she didn't care about her image at all. She had been back for a few days, but she didn't go to get her teeth filled, and she loved to smile. Why are you thanking me, Teacher Li? We should be the ones thanking you. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been able to escape from the nine-eyed demon spider's nest. Jiruo said sincerely. Looking at Li Nanan's toothless smile, he really couldn't help but want to stuff a life fruit into Li Nanan's mouth. After we were forced to separate that day, my other two classmates and I were teleported to the exit of the mythical realm and rescued. At that time, I searched for you in the base outside the Myriad Beast Mountain mystic realm for a long time, but I couldn't find you. After the martial arts examination ended, I had been carefully looking through the list of those who died. Before I finished reading it, I saw your news on the internet. Li Nanan sighed. Anyway, that's another matter altogether. If you hadn't carried me out when I was about to faint, I would have died in the spider's mouth long ago. Teacher Li Jiruo opened her mouth. Li Nanan shook her head slightly and said seriously, Student Jiruo, I know what you want to say, but it is my duty as a patrolling martial artist to help you clear the way. You have no obligation to save me. At that time, bringing me along would only slow down your pace. If you were not careful, not only me, but you would also die under the pursuit of the Spider Queen. You saved my life, and I'm truly grateful to you. Jiruo said with some embarrassment, no, Teacher Li, I just wanted to say that if you don't want to eat, can you please move aside a little? There are still people queuing behind. Li Nanan. Liang Shixian laughed and said, Teacher Li, come here and have a seat. Jiruo has always been like this, ha ha ha. Luo Qian patted Liang Shixian with her paw and said fiercely, meow meow. Drink the soup. Liang Shixian. The surrounding people laughed again. Li Nanan was stunned for a moment before she smiled and said, I'm the one who didn't think it through. I've disturbed your business, Jiruo. Then I'll go and have a chat with Liang Shixian first. Is there anything I can help you with? No need, no need. Teacher, you can rest first. After that, Zhang Quan and Lu Neng came to meet Jiruo under the guidance of their parents. After the two of them came back and found out about the tragedy of the martial exam, they were still very grateful to Jiruo. If not for Jiruo, even if they triggered the rescue device, they would definitely not have been able to wait until the patrolling martial artists arrived. They told their family about this matter, and the elders in the family decided to bring them to thank them. Because they were not sure if Jiruo was still alive, they went to thank Li Nanan first. Later, he found out from the news that Jiruo was still alive, so he rushed all the way from Sea City to Cloud City to thank Jiruo. These two families seemed to be quite rich. Zhang Quan's father immediately said that he wanted to give Jiruo a car, but Jiruo rejected him with the excuse that children can't drive big cars. Lu Neng's father even suggested giving Jiruo a house. Chapter 103, Chapter 103, The Reward for the Top Scorer, The Creation of the Fantasy Dominator, _3. Chapter 103, The Reward for the Top Scorer, The Creation of the Fantasy Dominator, _3. Jiruo didn't want it either. To him, giving a car or a house was not as practical as giving two little red flowers. After that, the two families went to chat with Li Nanan. They had already thanked Li Nanan before. The way they thanked her seemed to be by giving her money. Li Nanan said helplessly, if you two really want to thank me, just donate some money to the relief division. Let the relief division distribute the money to those who really need it. I told you, I don't need money. It's my responsibility to protect my students. Zhang Quan's father smiled awkwardly. Teacher Li, after you mentioned it last time, we've already donated money. We really want to thank you. Lu Neng's father scratched his head and said, I'm sorry, Teacher Li. We're businessmen. We really don't have much talent in martial arts other than giving us money, we don't know how to express our gratitude. However, since Teacher Li said so, we'll donate again. Li Nanan was speechless. Then we won't disturb you anymore. Seeing that they were about to leave, Jiruo turned his head and said with a smile, take care, uncles. Lu Neng's father suddenly stopped in his tracks. He thought for a moment and said, classmate Jiruo, don't worry. Uncle will donate your share as well. Dad, and Liang Shixi and Lu Neng whispered. All right, donate them all. I'll also donate some to the two students and Teacher Li, said Zhang Quan's father. Jiruo, Liang Shixian, and Li Nanan were speechless. Why do I feel like they're here to show off their wealth? Liang Shixian said with a toothache. Little Rosie slapped him again. In the evening, Liang Shixian drank a bowl of blood-replenishing spirit medicine soup and felt that his blood had recovered a lot. He rushed to donate blood again. This guy thought that although the medicinal power of the life fruit was still in his body, the longer it was delayed, the more it would be digested. He wasn't injured, so he thought that if he digested all the remaining medicinal power of the life fruit, it would be a waste of resources. That was why he was rushing to get fresh blood. Li Nanan was touched by Liang Shixian's behavior. She told Jiruo and went to donate blood. Jiruo stretched and apologized to the customers. She told them to come back tomorrow and planned to pack up. He had been setting up a stall for the past 2 days, so he hadn't practiced Taiji Fist much, and he hadn't farmed the saber and sword duality buff much either. However, the proficiency of the iron palm had increased quite a bit, and the number of small red flowers he had obtained had also increased. He had already obtained nearly 100, so it was not considered a loss. He planned to go back tonight and exchange for a few achievement rewards to study. Having learned the lesson of the bright red scarf, Jiruo was looking forward to the other rewards. Classmate Jiruo. At this moment, another guest arrived. I'm sorry, Jiruo said politely, but our stall is closed. I've been cooking for the whole day, and I'm really tired. We meet again. The customer said with a smile. Jiruo looked at him blankly. You. That's right, it's me. Who are you? Jiruo scratched his head. This guest looked not much older than Jiruo. In terms of handsomeness, he was almost on par with Jiruo. Jiruo carefully compared him and found that his white hair was cooler. This round was a complete victory. Cough cough. Me. The man choked. You brought the wind god falcon to the top of the mountain to save me. Don't you remember? It was Gu Xingzhou, who had returned to his original appearance. 50. It's you. Jiruo suddenly understood, but then hesitated. How did you? You want to ask me how I became younger, right? Gu Xingzhou laughed out loud. This is my true appearance. I only became like that because of work. I look too young and don't have much of a sense of dignity. Haha, how is it? Am I handsome like this? Handsome. Jiruo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He remembered that he had asked the ancient star continent a similar question when he was at the Myriad Beast Mountain. Was this considered a reversal of fortune? I'm leaving. I came to see you on the way and gave you something. He left. Jiruo was stunned. Where are you going? Sending something, teacher. Actually, I don't have any special needs. You also know that previously at the Myriad Beast Mountain, the Tree Demon brothers gave me a lot of spiritual herbs. Haha, what I want to give you is different. This is a reward from the higher UPS. The top scholar. Me. Jiruo's eyes widened. That's right. Other than you, who else is qualified to be the top scorer of this year's martial examination? Yes, the notice from the education department should be released soon. I can give you the top scorer's reward in advance. Gu Xingzhou smiled. He helped Jiruo close the stall and winked at her. Top scorer, code name, blade and sword duo, how about it? There was a champion in the martial arts examination, but the official announcement of each year's champion would only be replaced by a title. There would be no real information, not even a photo. This was to protect the top scorer, and also to not let the top scorer feel proud. For example, Jiruo's top scorer code name, sword and saber duality. When the education department announced that they would be the top scorer this year, even if Jiruo wanted to show off and told others that he was the top scorer, no one would believe him. Honor would not be absent, but he could not be arrogant. He had to guard against arrogance and impatience. You've been back for a few days, so I'm sure you already know what happened in this martial examination. As for those patrolling martial artists who died in battle and those injured students, we have to compensate them in large quantities. Therefore, the reward for you this time may not seem as much as the previous top scorer, but it's definitely precious. You don't have any objections to the removal of monetary rewards, do you? I don't lack money to begin with. I don't have any objections to giving the money to others who need it more. Actually, it doesn't matter if I give you a reward or not. Jiruo scratched his head. Haha, I know that you are a good child, but I have to give you this. Didn't you make an agreement with the sacred mountain tree? Gu Xingzhou laughed. Although the wind god falcon gave you a piece of spatial equipment, transporting the fertilizer shouldn't be a problem, but how are you going to deliver it? Recently, you must have been worrying about how to get to the Myriad Beast Mountain, right? The reward this time was applied for by me, and it's the most suitable reward for you. Gu Xingzhou's mysterious words made Jiruo a little curious. What is it? That is a creation of the illusion ruler. Jiruo was stunned for a moment. Ruler. Chapter 104, Chapter 104, A True City Legend. Chapter 104, A True City Legend. If the matter of the martial arts examens was exposed because of those few news articles, people from other places might just think that this child was not bad. Even most of the people from Yuncheng just felt that it was fresh and interesting, so they wanted to come and join in the fun and help out at the same time. In short, everyone had a good impression of this matter. Of course, not everyone was in a good mood. Why is boss a martial arts examinee? Little Hu Wang stood in front of his mother's hospital bed, clenching his fists. His eyes were red. He recalled what Wang Yun had told him this afternoon. Hu Wang, I want to apologize to you. Apologize? Apologize for what? The teacher misunderstood your boss for some reason. I apologize to you. Wang Yun said. Previously, she knew that Jiruo was indeed a martial arts student. However, because Jiruo was not injured and had a head of white hair, he did not look like a good student. Hair color discrimination was a yes. But now, after the news was published, some of Jiruo's personal information was exposed. Orphan, excellent grades, sunshine and enthusiasm, and those words, that song. This completely changed Wang Yun's opinion of Jiruo. Hu Wang didn't understand. Wang Yun clicked on a video. It was Jiruo standing on the flag-raising platform and singing at the top of her lungs. Little Hu Wang stared blankly at the video and listened to Jiruo's song. For some reason, he felt as if something in his heart had been touched, but he was too young to know what that feeling was. He only felt that the song was a little strange. It clearly didn't sound very good, and it was broken and out of tune, but for some reason, it felt pretty good. Teacher previously thought that student Jiruo had been hiding behind the patrolling martial artists in the Myriad Beast Mountain to survive, But now it seems anyway, Hu Wang, your boss is an outstanding person. You should learn from him. Boss, it's a martial arts examinee, Hu Wang muttered in disbelief. Wang Yun didn't hear him clearly and asked in confusion, Hu Wang, what did you say? No, 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 what's the meaning of the word? Hu Wang forced a smile. Teacher, don't worry. I'll be obedient. The next time you see classmate Jiruo, please help teacher apologize to him. Wang Yun rubbed Hu Wang's head and said, go back to class first. In the hospital, Hu Wang's eyes were red, and his fists were clenched so tightly that they turned white. He recalled his experience with Jiruo. Jiruo pushed him in a small cart through the streets and alleys. The whistling wind in her ears seemed to carry a happy taste. Jiruo taught him boxing, iron palm, and the principles of being a human. He was really glad that he had a boss like Jiruo. But WNYWNYIS boss, a martial arts examinee. Hu Wang looked at his mother, who was still unconscious on the hospital bed, and wiped his tears away. He liked to play with Jiruo, liked the principles Jiruo taught him, and wanted to be a good child. However, when he thought of how his mother had become like this because she had protected the martial arts examens, and how his father had not returned because he had protected the martial arts examens, his feelings for Jiruo could not be the same as before. Because Jiruo was a martial arts examinee. Sob, 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 sob. Hu Wang threw himself at the bedside and sobbed softly, Mom, why are you the only one back? Where's Dad? Didn't you go together? Why didn't you come back together? Mom, why are you going? Is it because I'm not a good child? I'll study hard and be obedient in the future. Mom, wake up please. They're not you, who are you, what right do you have to control them? Little Hu Wang's cries became louder and louder, attracting some doctors and nurses to come over and ask Hu Wang to stop. This was a hospital. Loud noises were forbidden. A patrolling martial artist who had lost his right arm stood in front of the ward. He shook his head and sighed at the doctors and nurses who had rushed over. Let the child cry for a while. We'll be fine. Some people in the other wards were also affected by the crying. They were originally a little dissatisfied, but after coming out to understand the situation, they expressed their understanding. Yeah, we're fine. Let him cry. Other than making Hu Wang cry, they didn't know how to comfort this child. Little Hu Wang's mother opened her eyes in confusion. What entered his eyes was a white ceiling. The breathing machine that assisted breathing had been adjusted to the rhythm of a certain breathing technique. She was a martial artist, and her life was no longer in danger. Sob, 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 sob. His hearing was restored, and a familiar sobbing sound seemed to come from an extremely distant place. She tilted her head slightly. She saw her son lying by the bed, repeating over and over again, they're not even your family, what right do you have to care about them? Zhangping was slightly distressed. Because they're still children, she said softly as she pulled off the breathing machine. Hu Wang suddenly raised his head and saw his mother looking at him weakly and gently. He immediately threw himself into Zhangping's arms and wailed. Mommy. Mother. Wow. You're finally awake. Zhangping's expression turned ferocious. The impact was quite vicious. She endured the pain and forced a smile. She gently rubbed Hu Wang's head. Ah Wang, Mommy is protecting others because those people are still children. Chapter 105, Chapter 105, A True City Legend, 2. Chapter 105, A True City Legend, 2. Ah Wang, you're a child too. It's impossible for your parents to be with you all the time. You have to grow up and leave us to live alone. You will meet many people, experience many things, and form a new family with others. Therefore, if you encounter any difficulties or dangers in the future, I hope that others will stand up and protect you. If other children encounter danger in front of us and we don't do anything, then when you encounter danger in the future, how will others protect you? Hu Wang raised his head with tears in his eyes and looked at his mother in confusion. Mom, 1. Put yourself in my shoes, Ah Wang. The children we protect will also protect you when you are in danger in the future. But N.E. Zhangping's heart ached when she heard that. At that time, if her husband had not risked his life to cover the rear, she would not have survived. But even so, she had lost both legs. With her martial artist constitution, she should have woken up long ago after returning to Great Xia and being saved by the medical staff. The reason why she had been unconscious for so long was because of her husband's sacrifice. If it wasn't for the fact that she was still worried about little Huang, she would probably have fallen asleep. Don't be sad, Wang. Dad is a hero. You should be proud of him. Zhang Ping said with a trembling voice. Little Huang was sad, and so was she. She had seen her lover die in front of her. She was sad, but she couldn't say that she was sad. She couldn't let little Huang be sad with her. Wang, have you been studying hard recently? Zhang Ping tried to change the topic. Huang was still young, so the topic was easily changed. He wiped his tears and sobbed, yes, I've been studying hard. Teacher Wang praised me for being a good kid. I even acknowledged a boss. Zhang Ping. Did I wake up in the wrong position? Acknowledge a boss. Under the streetlights. Ji Ruo pushed a small cart and walked with Luo Jian while chatting with Gu Xingzhou. The young man naturally did not know that he had just interrupted someone's emotions from a distance. He concealed the shock in his heart and asked curiously. Teacher, who is the illusion ruler? Ji Ruo also had one of the creations of the illusion god, but it was incomplete. Although the name of the Wanxiang mirror was strange, its function was exceptionally powerful. Not to mention the myriad forms traverse, the interspatial dimension seemed to have no limits. It could even freeze time to preserve its freshness. Don't you know the fantasy dominator? Gu Xingzhou asked in surprise. Ji Ruo was stunned for a moment. Should I know him? That urban legend. Seeing Ji Ruo's confused look, Gu Xingzhou knew that Ji Ruo really didn't know. He said, the legend about that guy has been circulating on the internet for many years. I thought you knew. No one knew who the fantasy dominator was. No, it should be said that no one knew what the fantasy dominator was. No one knew whether it was a living thing or in what form it existed. Legend had it that this existence known as the Lord of Fantasy had created many powerful and strange treasures. He had generously left these treasures in every corner of the world, waiting for the fated to find them. Some of them were in secret realms, some were in ditches, and some were even in toilets. Fantasy creations could exist anywhere. If anyone was lucky enough to obtain one, they would definitely soar into the sky. Just the Wanxiang mirror alone. The ability to travel through space and time at will, as well as the ability to store items with seemingly no limit, who wouldn't take off after obtaining it? If he only used this thing to move feces, it would save a lot of manpower and resources. That's about the content of the legend, Gu Xingzhou continued. This legend seems to have appeared at the same time as the arrival of the mystic realm. In the early years, this legend was quite popular on the internet. However, so many people went there, but no one really found the creation of the fantasy lord. Therefore, everyone gradually regarded this legend as a more interesting story. This is the urban legend, fantasy dominator. These things are quite popular among young people like you. I thought you knew. If that's a legend, why did you say that my reward is the creation of the illusion lord? Ji Ruo asked, feigning confusion. Because fantasy creations are real. Gu Xingzhou smiled. Only the main body of this legend, the illusion dominator, has never been able to prove its existence. However, the mythical creations in the legend do exist. Over thousands of years, there were still many lucky people who had obtained fantasy creations. What I brought you this time is the core of the so-called mythical realm teleportation device, fantasy creation, Wanxiang mirror, a part of it. Gu Xingzhou winked at Ji Ruo and said, the teleportation function of the secret realm teleportation device is actually achieved by relying on this fragment of the myriad mirror. In the past, the education department used this thing to connect to the myriad beast mountain secret realm and promoted the secret realm martial examination system. Now that the mystic realm martial examination system had been abolished, this fragment had been left idle. Isn't this good? You've reached an agreement with the sacred mountain tree, right? In the future, it might be a little difficult for you to go to Myriad Beast Mountain through normal means. With this fragment, it will be more convenient for you. Chapter 106, Chapter 106, A True City Legend, 3. Chapter 106, A True City Legend, 3. As he spoke, Gu Xingzhou fished out a small diamond-shaped fragment. Ji Ruo was stunned. What a coincidence. The shape of this fragment was exactly the same as the missing piece in the middle of Ji Ruo's Wanxiang mirror. Seeing that Ji Ruo was stunned, Gu Xingzhou thought that Ji Ruo felt that this item was too precious, so he said, Ji Ruo, this thing isn't as precious as you think it is. This thing only looks awesome, but in fact, because it's incomplete, the only secret realm that can be teleported back and forth is Myriad Beast Mountain. Now that the Mystic Realm martial arts examination system is abandoned, this fragment is also idle. You made so many friends in the Myriad Beast Mountain and even made an agreement with the Divine Mountain Wood that you need to return to the Myriad Beast Mountain frequently. It's just right for the fragment to be given to you. When Ji Ruo heard this, he immediately followed Gu Xingzhou's words and said, but teacher, this is the creation of the Lord of Illusion. It's not appropriate to give me a student. The young man declined in embarrassment as he reached out to pull open the pocket of his school uniform. This was indeed his reward, but as a good child, when the elders gave him the red packet money, he had to pretend to decline. Gu-sing-jo was a little confused by Jiruo's actions. He then laughed and stuffed the thumb-sized diamond-shaped fragment that reflected a certain location of the myriad beast mountain into Jiruo's pocket. You child, ha 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 ha. After some thought, Gu-sing-jo continued, Jiruo, the creations of the illusion dominator aren't all good stuff. I've seen an illusion creation called the completely automatic tracking unlimited tower. Its main function is to automatically wipe the buttocks of everyone who goes to the toilet around it. It's very clean. Jiruo was stunned for a moment. When he heard the name, he knew that this thing must be a creation of the fantasy dominator. He thought to himself that the fantasy dominator had such a down-to-earth creation. Isn't that good? The young man replied casually. No matter how much he used it, it would never be used up. If he could develop technology in this area, it would be equivalent to unlimited energy. If only it were that simple. Gu-sing-jo shook his head slightly. When there are no living beings in the surroundings that need to be cleaned, the paper on this fantasy creation will definitely not be torn off. The paper that had been used would disappear into thin air. This wasn't a big problem. The main thing was that this illusory creation had determined that it was clean. What do you mean? Jiruo asked curiously. It can't tell if the person in the toilet is urinating or defecating. No matter who goes to the toilet or how they go to the toilet, it will automatically wipe their ass after detecting that someone has gone to the toilet nearby. It will wipe until it is absolutely clean. When I first discovered this fantasy creation, it was in a dry toilet at the border. Gu-sing-jo recalled. At that time, a martial artist who was about to break through to the Starjade realm had just gone to the toilet when he was found by this toilet paper. That roll of toilet paper floated behind that martial artist to wipe his butt for 3 years. As time passed, the speed of wiping became faster and faster, and the strength became stronger and stronger. The toilet paper was clearly abnormally soft to the touch, but it was also surprisingly tough. And then? Jiruo asked blankly. Then, that martial artist was forcefully wiped away. Jiruo felt a slight toothache. That's why I'm telling you this, Jiruo. The main reason I'm telling you this is to tell you that although the creator of illusions creations are powerful, they aren't all good. Many fantasy creations have very strong side effects. If you have the opportunity to obtain other fantasy creations in the future, don't casually develop them yourself. Jiruo's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly felt that the Wanxiang mirror on his body was a little hot. Teacher, this fantasy creation that you gave me, would it have any powerful side effects? You can rest assured about this. Gu-sing-jo smiled. This fragment is incomplete. It only has the ability to travel through time and space. There are no side effects. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to give it to you. Phew, that's good. Jiruo heaved a sigh of relief. Gu-sing-jo suddenly said, don't call me teacher anymore. I'm no longer a teacher. It feels weird to keep hearing you call me teacher. I'm not worthy of being a teacher. The accomplished are the teachers. Why aren't you worthy of being? Jiruo was halfway through his sentence when he saw Gu-sing-jo's low spirits. He quickly changed his words, then what should I call you? Speaking of which, I don't even know your surname. Didn't I say that? Gu-sing-jo was stunned. Did you say that? It seems there really isn't. Gu-sing-jo scratched his head awkwardly, feeling even more uncomfortable. It was precisely because of his careless personality, because there had not been any problems in the martial examination for the past 10 years, and because there was still a long time before the earthworm woke up normally, he did not make many preparatory plans, which led to the death of so many children. Then let's get to know each other again. Gu-sing-jo collected his emotions and forced a smile. My name is Gu-sing-jo, and I'm a sinner. The bright moon hung high in the sky, and the street lamps were dim. The two of them and the cat had already arrived at Jiruo's house. Jiruo did not know why Gu-sing-jo said that he was a sinner. Just as he was about to comfort him, he suddenly felt that this name seemed a little familiar. You are the Secretary of Education. If I have to say, it should be the former secretary who killed so many children. I don't deserve to be the secretary, Gu-sing-jo said with a pained expression. Uncle Gu, I suddenly remembered something. Please wait for me. What? Oh, okay. Jiruo quickly pushed the cart into the corridor and parked it. Uncle Gu, can I trouble you to go to the hospital with me? What a coincidence. Jiruo was worried that he would not be able to tell the higher UPS about the news. He did not expect that the teacher he saved on the mountaintop was the secretary of the education department. To the hospital. Chapter 107, Chapter 107, I think I'm a little ugly. Chapter 107, I think I'm a little ugly. In the hospital. Zhang Ping, who was still a little weak, listened to Hu Wang introduce her boss. She also learned about Jiruo's actions from the recent news in Yuncheng. Suddenly, she accepted the fact that her son had inexplicably acknowledged a boss. That seemed to be a good child. Jiruo rushed to the hospital with the confused Gu Xingzhou. Gu Xingzhou looked at the medical staff who were still busy in the hospital even though it was already dark. His mood became even more depressed. It was all because of him. Jiruo, why did you bring me to the hospital? After hesitating for a moment, Gu Xingzhou said. I want to ask you for a favor. Jiruo said. After knowing that Gu Xingzhou was the recently resigned Secretary of Education, Jiruo had a rough plan in mind. Gu Xingzhou didn't know that the rest of the Wanxiang mirror was in Jiruo's hands. He simply thought that Jiruo was wearing a spatial equipment gifted by Aunt Jinglan. What favor? In the empty stairwell, Gu Xingzhou asked in confusion. To tell you the truth, I've long wanted to return to Myriad Beast Mountain. It just so happens that you sent me this fragment of the Wanxiang mirror. I want to go back to Myriad Beast Mountain to get something. Return to Myriad Beast Mountain? Oh, okay, no problem. Gu Xingzhou thought that Jiruo wanted to go back to Myriad Beast Mountain to find his tree demon brothers to get the spirit herbs. After all, he had also seen the news. He knew the truth and had roughly estimated the various spiritual medicines that Jiruo had consumed during this period of time. It should be almost exhausted, right? Thinking about it, it was normal for Jiruo to return to Myriad Beast Mountain to replenish his stock. Gu Xingzhou knew that these things were almost zero cost to Jiruo. He did not think about the life fruit because it was indeed very precious. The last time the sacred mountain wood gave them the life fruit, it was probably because of the wind god falcon. Gu Xingzhou knew very well that the 2 pills that he and Liang Shixian had obtained back then were actually an extra. Jiruo channeled his qi and blood to activate the diamond-shaped fragment in his hand. On the way here, he specially asked Gu Xingzhou about the usage of this fragment. Then Uncle Gu, I'll go in first. Please help me keep an eye on it. Jiruo summoned a portal and walked in with Luo Jian. Gu Xingzhou wanted to say something, but Jiruo had already disappeared into the portal. Then, the portal closed. This child Gu Xingzhou was shocked. Didn't he just break through to the Qi Meridian realm? Where did such dense blood essence come from? When they returned to the top of Myriad Beast Mountain, a foul stench assaulted their faces. The sacred mountain tree had torn a small piece of sun to dry the fertilizer on the mountaintop day and night. The smell was really a little. Only 30% of my vitality has been consumed. I thought there would be a lot. Jiruo was slightly surprised after sensing the consumption of this transmigration. A forked energy vein is indeed powerful. Jiruo was secretly satisfied. He didn't notice that when he was shuttling back and forth, Luo Qian's body was flickering with a dark light. Most of the energy consumption of the shuttle was borne by Rosie. Little Rosie didn't understand this either. She just suddenly felt a little tired. Grandpa Shenmue, I'm back. Jiruo waved his hand at the huge sacred mountain tree and said loudly. Eh? Little Ruo, you're back. My first batch of fertilizer hasn't been dried yet. You're right. These fertilizers need to be dried before they can be absorbed. The tree demon at the side also said, Shasha dash, that's right. In the past, my roots would always rot for no reason. I thought I had some tree disease. The other brothers all said that my wood quality was poor, so it was burnt by the fertilizer. Shasha dash, brother tree of God knows so much. Pay attention to trees. Shasha dash, one am curious about how the brothers usually enjoy the fertilizer. Jiruo. Grandpa Shenmue, I'm sorry. I didn't come back to give you fertilizer this time. I wanted to discuss something with you. When he heard that Jiruo did not come back to deliver fertilizer, the sacred mountain tree was a little disappointed, but it still asked, what is it? Was there not enough life fruit? I told you to take them all. I still have 108 left. Come. No, no. Grandpa Shenmue, I just wanted to confirm with you that as long as you have enough life essence, you can supply us with unlimited life fruits, right? G. Ruo waved his hand. Wait a minute, after you gave me a dozen pills yesterday, didn't you only have 100 pills left? Why are there 8 more? It can't be said to be unlimited. It's just that it doesn't take much effort to transform it. The main thing is that there's not that much life essence for me to transform. The life essence of a 3-star demonic beast is about enough to transform into 20 life fruits. I have over 100 of them in my inventory, and I've been secretly absorbing the leftovers from the battles between the demons and devils for so many years. Now that I have control of the earth vein, the entire Myriad Beast Mountain is under my control. The area I can absorb has increased. Those fiendish demons are like fools, fighting and killing all day long. The scraps I absorb are enough to condense another 8. With the support of the earth vein, the efficiency of my conversion of life essence is much faster than before. At the end, The sacred mountain tree sighed. It was as if the serfs had turned over a new leaf and were singing, and their family life was heading toward a well-off life. Hearing this, Jiruo's heart calmed down. He looked up at the sacred mountain tree and said, "Grandpa Sacred Mountain Tree, if we humans send you a large number of dying demon beasts that are rich in life essence, can you help transform the life fruit?" Chapter 108, Chapter 108, Shenmue, I think I'm a little ugly. Chapter 108, Shenmue, I think I'm a little ugly. It's possible. It's not a big deal anyway. How much do you want me to help you condense? Is my 108 gold coins not enough? I don't know, Jiruo said seriously. But Grandpa Shenmue, if we humans provide enough life essence, can you have as many life fruits as you want? As many as you have? How much exactly? Probably tens of billions. Jiruo counted with his fingers and said uncertainly. Once this matter was settled, it would be beneficial to the entire Great Xia. The life essence he needed couldn't be collected by Jiruo alone. Therefore, if Jiruo included the entire population of Great Xia, and calculated based on the average person losing an arm or leg 10 times a year. Tens of billions. The treetops of the sacred mountain divine tree trembled, and the entire myriad beast mountain began to shake. Fortunately, there were no more human activities in the myriad beast mountain mystic realm at this time. Little Trickruo, it doesn't take much effort for me to convert the life fruit, but this number, do you want me to transform the life fruit for you humans for the rest of my life? Shenmue said angrily. Jiruo felt a little embarrassed. He knew that this number was a little too ridiculous. Grandpa Shenmue, we only need a batch of life fruits recently. There are about 1 million of them. You can slow down the transformation a little, or let the tree demon brothers follow suit. If it's just 1 million, I can help. If there's enough life essence, it won't take much time, but tens of billions is too much. The sacred mountain tree said in a low and muffled voice. It was obviously a little angry. Don't count on your tree demon brothers. With their level, it will take at least 3 dabs to convert a life fruit. Jiruo scratched his head and thought to himself, then I'll convert 1 million. I'm sorry, Grandpa Mountain God Mew. I've troubled you again. I don't blame you, but the number of tens of billions is too scary. You taught us how to ripen the fertilizer so that we can absorb it more easily. It's only right that we help you. I was wondering why the roots of the clan trees would rot and die for no reason. So this is the reason. Reality proved that the tree demon was not completely professional in this aspect. They didn't farm, so how would they know the principle of fertilizer maturing? Jiruo chuckled. I'm just a high school student. I don't know much. I learned about fertilizer maturing from textbooks. There are many experts in botany in our human society who are proficient in all kinds of plant breeding methods. They are much better than me in these things. Is there someone stronger than you? There is. Jiruo didn't think too much about it and began to introduce some of the planting methods he knew to the mountain god Wood. Gardening, such as tending to the leaves and branches, was a piece of cake. Fermenting the land, transplanting plants, using crossbreeding methods to cultivate high-yield plants. Wait a minute. Jiruo didn't know much and only gave a rough description. The sacred mountain tree and the large group of tree demons nearby almost drooled when they heard this. Unfortunately, they did not have any saliva. Little technique. I think I can accept it if there are only 100 million. Really? Jiruo was pleasantly surprised. But I have a condition. What condition? That's right. Can you get a few plant experts to come over and help me trim it? Ahem. After absorbing the earthworm, I began to possess some of the characteristics of the flesh and blood demons. I don't have any other intentions. I just feel that I don't look too good right now, so I want to cut the branches to make them look better. Such a cute aesthetic. Of course. Jiruo was overjoyed. Thank you, Grandpa Shenmue. Then, pull the hook. Jiruo was in a good mood when she returned to the hospital. It was just that Rosie had fallen asleep at some point. The little girl was fast asleep and almost fell off Jiruo's head. Jiruo could only hold her in his arms. Uncle OU, let's go. The white-haired youth carried the black cat and walked up the stairs with a smile on his face. He knew which ward Hu Wang's mother was staying in. He had asked Wang Yun about it before. Although he had asked a few days ago, Jiruo had not forgotten. Because that ward was right next to Liang Shixian's ward, if he rounded it up, it was equivalent to him being here before. Because Zhang Ping had woken up, little Hu Wang had stopped crying. The corridor was quiet again. The mother and son were talking in the ward. The corridor was empty. Little Hu Wang is here too. Jiruo brought Gu Xingzhou into the ward. Hello, auntie. My name is Jiruo. Boss. Little Hu Wang raised his head in surprise, then said hesitantly, I'm sorry. Boss. I was angry with you just now. Oh? Angry at me? Why? Jiruo squatted down and rubbed Hu Wang's head, smiling as she asked, "Did boss do something to make you unhappy?" "No, it's because of the Conti. Boss is a martial arts examinee." Hu Wang subconsciously looked at Zhangping, who had lost both her legs, and then raised his head to Jiruo. "I'm sorry, boss. I lost my temper randomly. It's okay. A good child knows his mistakes and can correct them." The white-haired young man turned to look at his mother, who had lost both her legs on the hospital bed. The patrolling martial artist, who was unusually pale but still had a gentle smile on his face, said, "I'm sorry, Auntie. I didn't have time to visit you before." Chapter 109, Chapter 109, Shenmue, I think I'm a little ugly. Chapter 109, Shenmue, I think I'm a little ugly. Recently, he had been busy setting up a stall, gathering fertilizer, and practicing the iron palm. It had only been half a month since he took the martial arts examination. "My name is Zhangping. Jiruo, I've heard about you from Awang. Thank you for taking care of Awang during this period of time." Zhangping smiled weakly. Gu Xingzhou stood behind Jiruo and looked at the woman who had lost her legs with a complicated expression. Although he didn't know the other party, he knew that this was a patrolling martial artist. The other party's patrolling pass was still on the cabinet at the side. Zhangping did not recognize Gu Xingzhou either. Gu Xingzhou looked too young now. "No need to thank me. It's what I should do." As Jiruo spoke, he suddenly pulled out a white fruit and handed it to Zhang Ping. "Auntie, it's our first time meeting. Shall I treat you to some fruit?" Gu Xingzhou's eyes widened. He thought that Jiruo had gone back to the Myriad Beast Mountain to get some medicinal herbs. He did not expect it to be the life fruit. The life fruit did not have a fixed shape, but Gu Xingzhou had eaten it before, so he recognized it as soon as Jiruo took it out. Zhangping did not recognize him. He only felt that the white fruit was a little strange. She was very grateful to this white-haired young man who helped her take care of her child while she was unconscious. Although she didn't know Jiruo before, she didn't know the students in the examination hall either. Zhangping took the life fruit from Jiruo's hand. "Thank you." She subconsciously did not think that this fruit was anything precious, so she accepted it with a clear conscience. In fact, she did not have much appetite now. She even wanted to give the fruit to Hu Wang. "Auntie, try it. You just woke up, didn't you?" Jiruo urged. "Eating some fruits is good for your Neilton." Zhangping looked at Jiruo and smiled. She took a light bite and felt a cool sensation in her mouth. The crystal-clear fruit melted in her mouth, and Zhangping's expression changed abruptly. The two broken legs wrapped in thick bandages suddenly trembled uncontrollably. The wounds that were gradually healing burst open again, and blood dyed the white bandages red. Little Hu Wang was anxious. He wanted to say something, but Zhangping held him down. She knew her body best. "This is a life fruit." Zhangping looked at Jiruo in disbelief. This. Auntie can't accept such an expensive thing." She did not care about her lower limbs that were bleeding crazily. One bite of the life fruit was not enough for her to regrow her broken limbs. Zhangping was flustered and embarrassed as she wanted to return the life fruit that had been bitten to Jiruo. "I'm sorry, Auntie didn't know this was a life fruit." "Jiruo, take it back. It's too expensive, Auntie. Why would Jiruo take it back?" The white-haired youth had his hands behind his back and his eyes were filled with a smile. He looked at Zhangping with sparkling eyes and asked expectantly, "Auntie, is it delicious?" "Good, delicious." Zhangping looked at Jiruo blankly. "Auntie, if it's delicious, then eat it all. Don't waste it." After he recovered, he could hold little Hu Wang's hand and take him for a walk. Zhangping looked at the young man's clean and pure eyes. Suddenly, tears flowed down her face as she ate the life fruit. Auntie will eat right away. Thank you, thank you, thank you." Hu Wang, who was struggling to make a scene, suddenly heard a loud bang. He raised his head and saw a hideous bone stump and tender flesh growing crazily. In the blink of an eye, 1/3 of his missing legs had grown back. The life fruit contained a large amount of life essence. Other than healing physical injuries, it had no other effects. And it was precisely because of this that its healing effect was even stronger. Hu Wang looked at his mother's legs, which were growing rapidly and badly mutilated, but he didn't feel scared. He looked at Jiruo and said, "Boss." Jiruo laughed and took out a red scarf that he had just exchanged. "You're so smart. You guessed that I prepared a gift for you, right?" Jiruo crouched down and tied it up seriously. "This is a red scarf that only good children can wear. Wear it and work hard to be a good child in the future. Don't let mommy worry too much. You have to help with the housework, study hard, practice martial arts well, and grow up healthily and happily." I definitely." "Pull the hook." Jiruo extended his little finger. The agreement was effective for both parties. After making the childish promise, Jiruo stood up and patted little Huang's head with a smile. Little Huang is so obedient. Suddenly, Jiruo seemed to see an illusory man who looked similar to Huang standing behind Huang. He was covered in golden light and cupped his fists at Jiruo solemnly. Jiruo was stunned for a moment, then smiled even more happily. Then boss will leave first. Little Huang, you have to accompany mommy well. Yes. Goodbye, boss. Chapter 110, Chapter 110, Code Name, Red Scarf. Chapter 110, Code Name, Red Scarf. It was already late at night when they left the hospital. Jiruo, did you just go back and ask for the life fruit from the sacred mountain tree? Yes, Jiruo nodded. Grandpa Shenmue said that it was useless for him to keep the life fruit, so he gave me 10. 10 ahem, 10. Gu Xingzhou almost choked to death. Jiruo's relationship with the sacred mountain tree was too good. He hesitated for a moment and suddenly asked, Jiruo, how many life fruits are there in the divine mountain tree? If possible, could she exchange some more with him? Don't worry, I'll contact the financial secretary to provide the resources for the exchange. Other than the ones you gave me, Grandpa Shenmue still has 108 left. 108. Gu Xingzhou's eyes lit up, but he sighed. This number of life fruits was actually a lot. One had to know that in Great Xia, life fruits had always been priceless. However, compared to the number of people who needed the life fruit, the number of life fruits was still too little. Can I change it? If it's possible, can we exchange them all? Gu Xingzhou asked. Uncle Gu, I won't tease you anymore. Grandpa Shenmue had said that he was now in control of the earth vein of Myriad Beast Mountain, so it was already very easy for him to transform the life fruit. As long as he had enough life essence, he could transform into the life fruit at an almost unlimited speed. However, Grandpa Shenmue had a condition. With enough life essence, you can transform it without limit. What condition? Gu Xingzhou was stunned. Grandpa Shenmue wants to find a few botanists to help trim his branches. He feels that he doesn't look too good now. Gu Xingzhou didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What kind of childish reason was this? Jiruo took out the thumb-sized diamond-shaped mirror fragment from his pocket and handed it to Gu Xingzhou. Uncle Gu, I think you need this more than I do. Jiruo, do you know how much profit this matter involves? Gu Xingzhou's expression was complicated. Normal spirit herbs were fine, but the body fruit was always needed. How could one not get injured in martial arts? It was common to lose limbs when fighting demons. Benefits? What benefits? Would it make me happier to have this news to myself? Jiruo grinned. Then, he laughed out loud. It's good that you're happy, it's good that you're happy. Uncle Gu, there's no time to lose. Go back and prepare. Thank you. Gu Xingzhou said solemnly. You're welcome. You've really made a great contribution this time. Is there anything you want? I'll help you apply when I get back. What I want. Jiruo stroked Luo Qian, who was sleeping soundly in his arms, and said, it just so happens that I have a few self-created martial arts techniques that I want to sell. They are all martial apprentice realm martial arts techniques. If it's possible, Uncle Gu, can you help me contact the person in charge of this? What else? Gu Xingzhou nodded. No more. Impacted. Jiruo, think about it carefully. What else do you want? Jiruo looked at Gu Xingzhou in confusion. I can earn whatever I want. Gu Xingzhou was stunned. This youth was too pure. This was the true heart of a child. Then I'll leave first. Gu Xingzhou smiled and turned around. Wait, there's actually something I need your help with. Jiruo pondered for a moment. You said before that my top scorer's code name is Sword and Sword, right? Yes, that's right. I don't think this code name sounds good. Can you help me change it? Change it to what? My code name for the top scorer will be Red Scarf. Under the streetlights, the white-haired youth wore a bright red scarf around his neck and smiled brightly. Gu Xingzhou looked at Jiruo. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but he actually felt that the red scarf on Jiruo's chest seemed to have become more vibrant. The red color that drifted in the wind was indescribably beautiful. Good. It's called the red scarf. Jiruo didn't know what Gu Xingzhou said after he returned. In short, the next morning, Jiruo had just woken up when he heard the news report. It said that last night, a giant space demon with a body size of nearly 40 kilometers fell from the sky and was on the verge of death. The General Affairs Department issued a statement saying that it was a powerful martial artist stationed in the starry sky who did not control his strength properly when he was practicing martial arts and fell from the starry sky. The flesh and blood of the giant space beast was filled with strong radiation, and ordinary warriors would find it hard to resist. The General Affairs Department had already handled it properly, so the public should not panic. Why are you moving so fast? Jiruo was stunned for a moment. He summoned a portal with a diameter of half a meter and stuck his head in. As expected, he saw the so-called giant space demon in the Myriad Beast Mountain. At this moment, although the giant demon was heavily injured, it was not dead. It was lying on the mountainside with its last breath, its life essence being extracted by the roots of the sacred mountain tree. Jiruo looked at it for a while before shrinking his head back and pushing the small cart out to set up a stall. On the third day, the financial division began to distribute the life fruits to all the surviving patrolling martial artists and injured examines. As the number of life fruits was limited, priority was given to those who were missing limbs. However, the financial secretary promised that all the injured would receive the life fruits. While people marveled at the generosity of the financial secretary, some people also roughly estimated the number of life fruits the financial secretary had distributed this time through some information released by the financial secretary. In just one day, the financial secretary had distributed nearly 15,000 life fruits. People were very curious about where so many life fruits came from. One had to know that the life fruit had always been priceless. Not only was the growing environment and conditions extremely mysterious, but it could not be stored for a long time. Although this was a good thing, people were curious. The financial secretary didn't directly answer the questions of the people. Instead, he joined forces with the various departments of Great Xia to issue a public announcement. This year's martial examination champion, codename Red Scarf, has made a great contribution in this martial examination. Some people had guessed something, but they didn't dare to believe it. A freshman martial arts examinee who had just entered the Chi Meridian realm definitely had nothing to do with such a large number of life fruits. On the night of the third day, more than a dozen dying space monsters fell from the sky. Thus, on the fourth day, even more life fruits were given out, and everyone came to a realization. Jiruo was setting up a stall as usual, but there were fewer customers these few days. Recently, he had been adding marrow-cleansing spirit herbs to the fried rice. Purification was good. By purifying the body and removing impurities, it could not only increase the cultivation of martial arts with half the effort, but it could also increase the effect to a certain extent. Other than that, there were many other benefits. However, who could withstand having diarrhea every day? As a result, Jiruo's business reached a bottleneck. Liang Shixian was forced to be detained by the hospital because of his excessive blood donation at various blood donation stations during this period of time. He could not be released for the time being. However, Jiruo was not bored. When there was no business, he would go to the park to help with weeding or practice Tai Chi cleaning everywhere. He lived a fulfilling life. Chapter 111, Chapter 111, Human Tree Demon, Friendly Establishment. Chapter 111, Human Tree Demon, Friendly Establishment. On the fifth day after Gu Xingzhou left, he finally returned with a swollen face. He found Jiruo and said with emotion, "Jiruo, did you promise the wind god Falcon something? We've been working quite well with the divine wood in the past few days. It's just that the wind god Falcon comes to us every day and asks when you're going. Elle said that you lent us the Wanxiang mirror fragment, so we can't enter for the time being. She even beat me up. Aunt Jinglan hit you. Why did she hit you?" Gu Xingzhou rubbed his nose and said, "She said that I snatched a child's things and was shameless." Jiruo, don't misunderstand. It's not that I can't defeat her. Although her bloodline has advanced, she's definitely not my match in a real fight. I didn't lower myself to her level because of you. Gu Xingzhou stammered and then said some difficult to understand words, such as being a prostitute, being married with 2 children, and so on. Luo Qian was also laughing on top of Jiruo's head. It was too interesting. "Jiruo, we don't need this heavenly manifestation realm fragment for now." Then, he took out the diamond-shaped fragment and handed it back to Jiruo. "However, you have to be careful. It's best to prepare a set of chemical protective clothing when you enter Myriad Beast Mountain in the near future. Right, we are preparing to form a deeper cooperation with the sacred mountain tree. In the future, Great Xia's feces will be given to them first in exchange for spirit herbs. However, the sacred mountain tree said that those spirit herbs were provided to you first. After all, you were the one who pulled the hook first, so I came to ask for your opinion." Gu Xingzhou looked at Jiruo. "If we do this, Great Xia's spiritual medicine market will definitely suffer a huge blow. The price will plummet. This is a good thing for the people. Then do it." "Why would I disagree?" Jiruo asked. "Good child, I was right about you." Gu Xingzhou smiled. You should take some time to go back to Myriad Beast Mountain." "I can't go back for the time being. The way the wind god Falcon looks at me now is really a little." "Haha." Jiruo thought for a moment and said, "Please wait for me for a moment. I'll prepare some things. Let's go back to the Myriad Beast Mountain together." If the price of spirit herbs plummeted, it should cause a considerable impact on the existing market, right? "Uncle Gu, have you dealt with this problem?" "Not yet. The financial secretary hasn't discussed a suitable plan yet. Such a big matter must be made public. I just don't know how to make it public. The source of the spirit herbs was not easy to explain. Some people might not be able to accept cooperating with the tree demon for the time being. I have an idea. Uncle Gu, if it's possible, let me try it. Jiruo thought of an interesting idea. If it's done properly, there shouldn't be any problems. Gu Xingzhou thought for a moment. You're the one who pushed all of this forward. We'll definitely give priority to your proposal, but can you tell me what you plan to do first? Easy. Anyway, it depends on my performance. Jiruo smiled mysteriously. Myriad Beast Mountain, Peak. Jiruo was wearing a thick chemical protective suit. The huge amount of life essence needed to transform the life fruit came from the giant space demon. The demon beasts that lived in the starry sky had huge bodies and extremely strong vitality. As 4-star demon beasts, their vitality was more than 10 times stronger than the demon beasts on the ground. They were the most suitable materials. However, because these space monsters lived in space for a long time, their flesh contained a huge amount of radiation. Ordinary people could not eat them directly. Giant starry sky demons that could not be eaten after being killed were usually killed and thrown away. Now that he had the help of the sacred mountain tree, there was no need to waste it. He could just beat them half to death and exchange them for the life fruit. It was the intense radiation from their bodies that caused some of the demons in Myriad Beast Mountain to start mutating. However, it was not a big problem. The protective suit Jiruo was wearing was specially made. There were windows on his eyes and chest, and the window on his chest was reserved for Luo Qian. Not far away, a group of researchers wearing chemical protective suits were operating various instruments on the tree demon brothers. Are these tree demons really letting us study them? SHH. What research? We're trying to understand the structural characteristics of these tree demons. Only by collecting enough detailed data can we formulate a better growth plan for them. You're right. I really didn't know that the demonic power in the body of a tree demon runs in this way. From the looks of it, this tree demon did not seem to be very healthy. They cut open the bark with a small knife and carefully observed and recorded the way the demonic power flowed under the bark to compare the data. Little Ruo, you're here. The sacred mountain tree said comfortably. At this moment, there were dozens of martial artists above his head, carrying large scissors and jumping around, trimming his branches. The tree roots of the sacred mountain tree pierced into the bodies of the space beasts, using the power of the earth veins to extract the life essence. The tree trunk split open, revealing the seemingly tangible lake of life essence. The lake water rose and fell, and in an instant, 100 life fruits flew out. There are actually such yao in this world. I thought the process of absorbing life essence would be boring. I didn't expect the life essence of these yao to be so exciting. I feel like I'm about to evolve. Jiruo rubbed his nose. Secret realms were incomplete small worlds with incomplete rules. There was no such thing as a starry sky. The stars in the secret realms at night were actually just reflections. The height of the sky was limited. Therefore, the divine mountain tree, a plant demon that had lived in the Myriad Beast Mountain since childhood, naturally did not know of the existence of the giant starry sky demon. The so-called stimulation and evolution were probably the aberrations caused by the radiation of its demon body. However, Jiruo could tell if this was a good thing or a bad thing. The sacred mountain tree was so excited because the distortion caused by the radiation was beneficial to him. Grandpa Shenmue, it's good that you don't find it annoying. I'll have to trouble you with so many life fruits. No trouble, haha. There were actually such magical demons in the world, and there were also these humans. Yeah, they really knew a lot. I didn't expect that there would be so much knowledge in the growth of plant demons like us. All these years of growth have been in vain. After the botanists had studied it thoroughly and planned it well, with the flesh and blood of those space beasts, the clan trees could evolve. At that time, as long as you have enough life essence, you can have enough life fruits. Ha 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 ha. You can have any fruit you want. The sacred mountain tree was very excited. The little tree demon that found him was right. Little Trickster was indeed the divine tree of his clan. It was the future of his race. Right now, the tree demons only needed to help them harvest the fruits. There would be someone to take care of them when they ate and drank. The humans helped them plan and adjust their position so that they could get enough sunlight and not be blocked by the branches and leaves of other tree demons. The humans had also helped Divine Mountain Tree to reorganize the water veins of Myriad Beast Mountain, so that the plant demons did not even need to move and could obtain sufficient water for irrigation and fertilize rather than normal fertilizers. There were also various targeted fertilizers and compound fertilizers during this period of time. The tree trunk of the sacred mountain tree was laughing so hard that its trunk cracked. He did not waste any nutrients. He used all of them to grow and make himself taller and stronger. He did not need to do anything else. He only needed to produce normal results. Nothing could make the tree happier than this. Tree demons did not like to move. Previously, they had no choice but to migrate every night. After all, the fertility of a piece of land was limited. Moving trees was a true reflection of these tree demons. As long as you're happy. Jiruo smiled happily. Chapter 112, Chapter 112, Chapter 104, Lian's Secret Realm, Lower the Price of the Spirit Herbs, _L. Chapter 112, Chapter 104, Lian's Secret Realm, Lower the Price of the Spirit Herbs, _L. In fact, there was no particularly serious conflict between humans and most of the plant demons. It was just that the communication methods between ordinary plant demons were too abstract, and although the plant demons of a higher level could speak human language, they were all cowardly. It was not easy for plant demons to advance, and the road to advancement was much more difficult than that of the flesh and blood demons. They had to endure. After growing carefully for so many years, it finally grew into a towering tree with complete spiritual intelligence. It must cherish its life even more. The only difference between humans and plant demons was a translator. After chatting for a while, Jiruo went to the floating island to find Aunt Jing Lan. Even Gu Xingzhou was a little surprised Jiruo had actually learned how to open a portal in the same space. The compatibility between this child and the Wanxiang mirror fragment was higher than he had imagined. Although Aunt Jing Lan still disliked Gu Xingzhou, she was very happy about Jiruo's arrival. Chirpruo, come quickly. Auntie has prepared a lot of ingredients. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Chirp, I miss you so much. Hurry up and make something delicious. Chirp, delicious. Do you miss me? Jiruo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm afraid you miss my cooking, right? He didn't hesitate to take out all kinds of seasonings that he had prepared beforehand from the Omnizo mirror. He had been setting up a stall recently, so he naturally had these things on hand. Although some spirit fruits and plants could barely replace various seasonings, they were not real seasonings after all. There would still be slight differences in the taste. Now that Jiruo had the title of culinary god, he was more proficient in the combination of various seasonings and the control of fire. With the effect of delicious +3, the food he cooked was even more delicious than before. Aunt Jing Lan and her family were extremely happy. Chirp, little Zhang's cooking skills have improved. Chirp. Aunt Jing Lan said with satisfaction, much better than that human. Who asked for treasures from children, what is Linglan talking? Jiruo laughed. Gu Xingzhou asked curiously, Jiruo, what is Jinglan talking about? He would never call Jinglan auntie. Uncle Gu, auntie said that she's very happy that you're here. Gu Xingzhou grinned. However, before he could be happy, Aunt Jinglan mercilessly exposed him in a stiff human language. I'm asking little Jiruo not to play with a bad guy like you who wants treasures from children. Jiruo smiled and took out the gift he had prepared for Aunt Jinglan. Auntie, this is the gift I prepared for you. Chirp, you prepared the gift? What is this? Aunt Jinglan asked curiously. De Bao and Er Bao also came over. This is a tablet. Aren't you bored? Jiruo asked. I don't know if you can accept our human culture, but this thing is quite good for entertainment. I've downloaded many movies and TV series for you. You can watch them when you're bored. Chirp, do I use this? I'll teach you. After teaching Aunt Jinglan how to use the tablet, Jiruo couldn't help but laugh when he saw Aunt Jinglan carefully controlling it with her bird claws. The family of three gathered in front of the tablet and watched a martial arts movie that Jiruo had downloaded. These flowers and embroidered legs look pretty. Thank you, little Ruo. As long as you're happy. Jiruo smiled. Gu Xingzhou stood awkwardly at the side. Jiruo, can you think of a way to help improve the relationship between me and Jinglan's family? After that, I'll have to guard Myriad Beast Mountain for a period of time. It's not a good idea for her to keep not wanting to see me, he whispered to Jiruo. After thinking for a while, Jiruo gave Gu Xingzhou a reassuring look and said to Aunt Jinglan. By the way, Auntie, I might not be able to return to Myriad Beast Mountain to cook for you often in the future. Why don't you ask Uncle Gu to hire a few chefs to cook for you? Yes, my cooking skills are not that good. After all, I'm just a high school student. Can I? Aunt Jinglan turned her head and asked stiffly. Of course. Gu Xingzhou was stunned for a moment before he said happily. After leaving the sky-floating island, Jiruo helped Gu Xingzhou plan a plan to reveal the source of the spirit herbs to the public. Will this work? Gu Xingzhou was stunned. Will the sacred mountain tree agree? Uncle Gu, look at how happy Grandpa Shenmue is now. He can't wait to have a better relationship with us humans. Don't you think so, Grandpa Shenmue? Yeah, ha ha ha, it's so fun to get along with humans. Thus, Gu Xingzhou took Jiruo's proposal back and reported it to the General Affairs Division. Although the General Affairs Division felt that this plan was a little ridiculous, since it was proposed by that child. Then let's give it a try. Congratulations to the host for triggering the function, this is my plan. Acquired skill, vision. Vision, when the host is participating in the formulation of a plan, after the plan is confirmed, you can use the skill to check the success rate of the plan. Remark, what poop behind the scenes? It's the mastermind. Remark, when it comes to planning, I'm a professional. The General Affairs Department issued a notice to the entire country, informing everyone that there would be a mysterious live broadcast at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. It was related to the price adjustment of low-level spiritual medicines, so everyone was invited to watch it actively. 5:50 p.m. Gusin Joe held the script that Jiruo had written for him and hesitated. Jiruo, is this really okay? Trust me, it's not wrong. Jiruo gave a thumbs up. He had used vision to see that the success rate of this plan was 98%. It could be said that there was almost no possibility of failure. Gusin Joe took a deep breath and went through the contents of the script in his mind. The live broadcast started. Gusin Joe quickly got into the zone. Welcome to this live broadcast. I am the host of this live broadcast. My name is Gusin Joe. I believe that everyone is curious about the content of this live broadcast. How will the General Affairs Department adjust the price of low-grade spiritual herbs? Everyone knows that the cultivation of martial arts requires a large amount of resources. As the saying goes, the poor are good at literature and the rich are good at martial arts. People who practice martial arts have a high demand for spiritual herbs. However, the conditions for the growth of spiritual herbs are somewhat complicated, and it is difficult to artificially cultivate them. Moreover, the available cultivated land in Great Xia is shrinking all year round. At this point, the live broadcast bullet screen was in low spirits. No trolls were spouting nonsense. Everyone knew that this was the truth. People watched the live broadcast quietly. Fortunately, hard work pays off. After many years of hard work by the military department and the agriculture department, they finally successfully cultivated a pseudo 5-star sacred mountain tree in a mystic realm. Recently, this sacred mountain wood had successfully controlled the mystic realm's earth vein under the efforts of the various departments. The live comments paused. Gusin Joe's voice became excited. The life fruits that the financial department recently distributed to the injured patrolling martial artists and students all came from this artificially cultivated sacred mountain tree. We humans have already mastered the method of mass-producing the life fruit. As long as we invest enough life essence, we can harvest an endless stream of life fruits. Not only the life fruit, but this artificially cultivated sacred mountain wood has matured intelligence. It can completely mass-produce all kinds of low-grade spiritual herbs according to our requirements. The live broadcast room was in an uproar, and the thick bullet comments almost drowned out Gusin Joe's figure. On the bullet screen, there were only 3 words, really. Gusin Joe laughed and said in an excited voice, I know that everyone may not believe it. After all, this matter is too ridiculous, but this is the truth. Seeing is believing. Since everyone doesn't believe me, let's just get straight to the main topic of this live broadcast. Everyone, please get ready and open your eyes wide. Now dash. Gusin Joe waved his hand and a blood-red vortex door suddenly appeared behind him. Lian Mei Secret Realm, lower the price of the spirit herbs for me. Chapter 113, Chapter 113, The Cat Who Was Pulled Away. Chapter 113, The Cat Who Was Pulled Away. The top of Myriad Beast Mountain was a place where almost no humans had ever set foot before. In addition, the top of the mountain had now been occupied by tree demons, and the tree demons had actively cooperated with the research and planning of botanists. The distance between each tree demon was calculated and looked extremely standard. The Agriculture Division had already transported a large amount of agricultural equipment to Myriad Beast Mountain. As far as the eye could see, there were not only scientific irrigation facilities, but also artificial greenhouses. It looked like a scientific farm. Gusin Joe had used the Wanxiang mirror fragment to open a portal, displaying everything in front of everyone, showing the entire farm to the masses. The live stream's bullet screen was filled with amazement. The live broadcast effect was immediately maxed out. This was Jiruo's plan. By identifying the sacred mountain wood as artificially cultivated, people would have a good impression of the sacred mountain wood. So what if it was a fake 5-star plant demon? It was grown by humans. In this way, she had a sense of pride. After that, he added all the life fruits that the financial secretary had distributed to the mountain god wood, even though those life fruits were originally produced by the mountain god wood. This way, people would subconsciously feel grateful towards the sacred mountain wood. After that, he would let Gusin Joe lead the crowd to visit the Myriad Beast Mountain Spirit Herb Plantation through a live broadcast. He would let the crowd see with their own eyes how Gusin Joe would make one request after another, and then the tree demons would try their best to satisfy them. The crowd would definitely be excited. There was pride, gratitude, and excitement. Naturally, the price of the spirit herbs was lowered. The live broadcast plan was a great success. Jiruo was also invited by the education department to participate in the development of the new martial examination system because of this wonderful idea. Jiruo was not very good at this, but he could use vision to help check the success rate of the plan. Hence, the new martial examination system was successfully implemented. The main body of the new martial examination would no longer be placed in the mystic realm. Instead, they used a point system and tested them in different categories: swordsmanship, saber techniques, hidden weapons, body movement, hard body skills. Wait a minute. After the subject test was completed, the scores were tabulated. Of course, such words, 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 such words. Therefore, the martial examination would be divided into two parts. One part was the test of various subjects, and the other part was one-on-one combat. The martial arts competition adopted a promotion system: school level, city level, provincial level. Wait, step by step, the top scorer will be chosen. The top 10 students of each school would be able to decide whether they wanted to apply for a high-level martial artist to lead them out for training. Although this way, the time span of the martial examination would be dragged out too long. However, he had to admit that this was a good idea. Even Jiruo's foresight showed that this new system was highly feasible. Therefore, the new martial arts examination would start from the second year of high school. After the literary examination, there would be a small fight every 3 days and a big fight every 7 days, all the way until graduation. As for the examines of this generation who had been ravaged, they did not need to go through martial arts to advance. They only needed to pass the tests of various subjects. Those who had basically reached the standard in their overall quality could advance. Those whose scores had already been recorded on their wristwatches in the previous martial examination would not be invalid. They would be directly added to the comprehensive assessment for reference. In other words, there was no need for him to take the test again. You're free all of a sudden. After selling a few self-created martial arts techniques to the education department, Jiruo slumped on the sofa and suddenly felt a little bored. Now that he was the top scorer, he naturally did not need to participate in the new martial arts examination. He glanced at the admission notice on the coffee table. He had already been accepted by the best martial arts school in Great Xia in advance. Why would he still take the martial arts examination? And because the price of low-grade spirit herbs had fallen, he didn't have to set up a stall to sell spirit herb fried rice. The proficiency of the iron palm had almost stagnated. After most people were familiar with Jiruo, the little red flower did not give much. Moreover, those low-level spirit herbs were now priced at the same price as cabbages. Many restaurants and food stalls were selling spirit herbs and delicacies. Who would still come to his place to buy marrow-cleansing fried rice? Marrow-cleansing spirit herbs were good, but that thing gave me diarrhea. The fertilizer needed by the Tree Demon brothers was also provided by the Great Xia officials. Aunt Jing Ian's family was addicted to watching dramas, and there was even a professional chef to take care of the food. He had settled down in the Myriad Beast Mountain in the ancient Star Continent, and he would live stream every day to show the audience around the Myriad Beast Mountain spirit herb plantation. Everyone settled down. Even Liang Shixian was detained by the hospital because of his crazy blood donation some time ago. It was a good thing, but he couldn't donate blood like this. Therefore, Liang Shixian was forcibly detained in the hospital. Jiruo's various abilities and martial arts techniques had also temporarily reached a bottleneck, and he would not be able to make any obvious breakthroughs in the short term. He seemed to have nothing to do except wait for school to start. Meow dash, master. Luo Qian recalled the scene of Jiruo selling martial arts techniques and asked carefully, Meow dash, are you rich now? Yeah, why? Meow dash, then, can you buy me a cell phone? Of course you can. I almost forgot if you didn't mention it, Jiruo said. LVE been attending meetings with the leaders recently, and I feel like my red scarf is fading. Let's go buy it now. The color of the red scarf was related to the wearer's happiness. Although it could store happiness, because it could passively increase learning ability and comprehension, the stored happiness was actually consumed at all times. If he did not receive any happiness for a long time, the color of the red scarf would gradually darken. Meow. I'm going to buy a cell phone. Luo Qian jumped down from Jiruo excitedly and led the way. During this period of time, She was already very familiar with human. She knew where the cell phone shop was and had wanted to go there for a long time. Hey, wait a minute. Jiruo patted his head and suddenly remembered something very important. Rosie, can you read? Meow. Rosie looked confused. Jiruo was amused. It's useless even if I buy you a phone if you can't read. The young man's eyes lit up. He suddenly knew what he had to do while waiting for school to start. I'll teach you how to read first. After you learn it, you can buy it? Meow dash, but master, you promised me. Alright, I can buy it for you first, but I'll teach you how to read later. You have to learn well. Meow dash, 0k. Jiruo went to the phone shop and bought a small black smartphone for Luo Jian. At the same time, he used his ID card to help Luo Jian get a card. When she got home, Rosie played with her new phone lovingly. Although she couldn't understand the words on it, she still poked it with her claws. Meow meow dash, 1ts so fun. You can even spin in circles, haha. Jiruo looked at it and was speechless. Somehow, this little guy had clicked into the settings and was currently clicking restore factory settings. As the phone had just been bought, there was nothing stored in it, so it was reprogrammed very quickly. Rosie reprogrammed it repeatedly, looking at the circles over and over again. She was having a lot of fun. Alright, you've bought a phone. It's time to study, right? Jiruo took out the teaching materials she had used before from her room and placed them on the coffee table. Looking at the pile of teaching materials that was taller than her, Luo Jian subconsciously trembled. Meow dash, master, you have to learn all of this. Yes, I have to learn all of them. Jiruo said happily. Meow dash, this is too much. Rosie quietly closed her eyes and returned to the space of consciousness. Sister, master wants to teach me how to read. So many books. What should he do? Do we have any talents that we can learn from? Study hard. The white cat was stunned. How can we demons have such a talent? What are you thinking about? No. But those books look so much. Don't be afraid, sister. Alright, Before the white cat could finish his words, he was suddenly pulled out of the spiritual space as if he was grabbed by something. Luo Jian did not understand what had happened. She felt an itch on her neck and opened her eyes in a daze. Jiruo was tying a red scarf for her. Little Luo Jian, I follow you to talk, this can be good children can wear red scarf, wear it, learning ability will become strong. Oh. This red scarf was exchanged when he gave it to Hu Wang last time. Now that Luo Jian wanted to learn how to read, it was just right for her. Luo Jian wasn't big. She was a pure little kitten, so she definitely wouldn't wear it normally. Therefore, Jiruo put it on Luo Jian upside down. The big triangle was in front, and there were two red scarves at the back. It's really beautiful. Jiruo said with satisfaction. The moment the red scarf was put on, a golden cat several times larger than Rosie flashed past. Why did he feel that the heroic spirit cat that appeared behind Rosie had a dumbfounded expression on its face? PS Volume 15, Fertile, Crossed Out, The Primitive Accumulation of Happiness, End. Chapter 114, Jiruo Armed to the Pupils, 1. Chapter 114, Jiruo Armed to the Pupils, 1. Half a month later, at the first martial arts school. As the saying went, there was no first in literature and no second in martial arts. This martial arts school lived up to its name. It was the best martial arts school in the entire Great Xia. Be it the strength of the teachers, the basic facilities, the strength of the students' weight, he was number one in almost all aspects. Other than the number of students, the comprehensive strength of other universities could not compare to it. And it was precisely because of this that Gu Xingzhou told Jiruo that the full name of the school was actually the first martial arts school that was number one in all aspects except for the number of students. This name already had the feeling of a fantasy ruler. Of course, this name was not made public to the public. It was only circulated among the higher UPS. The main reason why it was named this way was because there was a fantasy creation in this first martial arts school. Jiruo, what's wrong with little Luo Jian? At the school gate, Liang Shixian, who was dragging a big suitcase, carrying a big backpack, and carrying a blanket, asked curiously. At this moment, Luo Jian was lying weakly on top of Jiruo's head. There was an old red scarf around her neck. The color was not bright at all, and the edge looked a little damaged. She had been learning the human language from Jiruo for half a month at home, and her face was filled with despair. She's suffering from the after effects of her studies. Don't worry, class monitor. It's not a big problem. Liang Shixian said somewhat embarrassedly, Jiruo, I'm no longer the class monitor. They hadn't even entered the gates of the new school yet. Jiruo was the top scorer this year, and Liang Shixian had been with Jiruo all this time, so he naturally came in second place. He had also received the notice of the first martial arts school long ago. She was lucky enough to be assigned to a class. Jiruo had a meeting with the leaders of the education department earlier and knew that the top 10 students of this year's martial arts examination had been admitted to the first martial arts school and were even assigned to the same class. I don't care. Jiruo looked back at Liang Shixian and said, "In my heart, you will always be my class monitor." Liang Shixian's entire body shook. What kind of eyes were those? His bright eyes were cold, and indifferent. Liang Shixian was shocked. It's cosmetic contact lenses. I'm wearing cosmetic contact lenses. Jiruo said seriously. Originally, he didn't intend to comment on Jiruo's attire, but at this moment, he really couldn't help it. Jiruo, we're here for school. Is it appropriate for you to dress like this? I know you like to play, but what's wrong with my outfit? Jiruo raised his hands and turned them around in front of Liang Shixian. Jiruo was wearing a pair of white sports shoes with golden red stripes, a white loose training suit, a pair of black half-finger gloves, a red scarf around his neck, and a pair of wooden sticks that happened to be in the shape of a sword and a knife on his back. There were two fan-shaped statistics in his eyes. He had a small water bottle on his waist, a small school bag on his back, and a black cat on his head. No matter how he looked at it, he didn't look like he was here to go to school. Liang Shixian's lips moved, and he finally sighed. As long as you're happy. Humph. Jiruo hummed a little tune and took out her phone to dial a number. In the next moment, a ringtone came from the weak Rosie above his head. He was instantly energized and excitedly took out his phone to answer the call. Hello? Little Rosie, we're going to college. Are you ready? Meow, meow, meow dash, always be prepared. He could understand why people called upstairs and downstairs, but why did he have to call someone who was right above his head? He looked at Jiruo, who was talking to Luo Jian on the phone and walking towards the school, and his heart was filled with the desire to complain. Unfortunately, he didn't have any hair on his head. He thought that he had gotten used to Jiruo's jumping around, but now he realized that his cultivation was not enough. You really don't make me worry. Liang Shixian sighed and chased after him. Wait for me. Although Jiruo's dressing was a little strange, those things were not ordinary goods. Not to mention the red scarf, the rest. Name, capable of gripping, non-slipping, quick rubbing gloves. Achievement source, iron palm stretching inside. Special effect, absolute friction, the friction can be increased according to the host's thoughts, allowing the host to grab what he wants. Remark, even if you get dragged, don't expect me to let go. A handy wooden stick that can't be beaten no matter how hard I try. Achievement source, if you hold this rod when you are young, you will be able to lower your eyebrows for 10 miles. Special effect, unbreakable, unbreakable. Remark, a mere vegetable dares to hold his head high in front of me. Fall down. The gold medal guide sneakers that won't get lost or dirty. Achievement source, gold tour guide. Special effect 1, know the way, after throwing it, it will automatically return to your feet. Special effect 2, clean, won't get dirty. Special effect 3, tour guide, sports, shoes, unbreakable. Remark, the path I've taken is under my feet. The path I've never taken cannot pollute me. Remark, my future is endless. You will never be able to read my mind through my eyes. Contact lenses achievement source, this is my plan. Special effect 1, pretending to be shrewd, a custom gaze that perfectly hides the emotions expressed in the original gaze. Special effect 2, scene, the person who sees the eyes of the host's child will be able to see through the glasses at the first moment to customize their emotions. Remark, as a behind-the-scenes cook the mastermind, it was very important to hide his emotions. Remark, the eyes are the windows to the soul, but my eyes are fake. Is it really that smooth? White training suit. Achievement source, stirring water in a vat. Special effect, silky, when surrounded, Taiji fist can dodge blunt weapons. Remark, landlord's Taiji fist is really good. Other than these, there was also a small water bottle and a small school bag. Jiruo had bought these two items when the supermarket downstairs was having a sale. Luo Jian also had a set. The physical rewards of these achievements were all extremely powerful. Just exchanging for these items had almost consumed all of the little red flowers that Jiruo had accumulated. However, he had to admit that these little red flowers were worth it. Jiruo, I can't spare my hands right now. Do you still remember where the registration office for new students is? Liang Shixian caught up with Jiruo and asked. The reporting office. Jiruo glanced at Liang Shixian, who was carrying many bags, and said, Class monitor, why don't I help you keep these things? You know, I. Before he could finish, Liang Shixian interrupted him. He said seriously, I don't have much luggage. I can bring it with me. As for you should be careful when using it. If you expose it, it might cause trouble for you. Alright, alright. Come with me. Jiruo shook his head. This white-haired young man had never seen the enrollment regulations before. He was new here, so he definitely had to explore it. If he knew the layout of the new school in advance, he wouldn't feel like exploring anymore. Let's go and put the things away first. Jiruo said as he lifted his leg and kicked. The sports shoes under his feet flew out and drew a beautiful arc in the air before falling to the ground. Jiruo glanced at the direction pointed by the tip of her shoe and hopped over to put her shoe back on. This way. Luo Qian was a little confused. In a trance, she seemed to see wisps of grey fog seeping out from the ground of the school and surging towards Jiruo and Liang Shixian. However, in the blink of an eye, the grey fog was no longer visible. She subconsciously turned around to see if the ground behind her was the same. Then, she became even more puzzled. What about the way here? It was strange. Chapter 115, Chapter 115, What Entrance Trial? Chapter 115, What Entrance Trial? In the principal's office. Principal Chen, the top scorer has already arrived at school. Aren't you going to meet him? Have we arrived? Chenzhe, who was reading documents, raised his head and pushed up his glasses. Speaking of which, I really want to meet this magical little top scholar. The secretary said, "LT's indeed amazing. I heard that this little top scorer almost single-handedly fought for Great Xia. Yes, they had obtained a secret realm. Now, Great Xia had achieved freedom in low-level spiritual herbs and obtained a large amount of cultivated land. Moreover, it was said that the planning of the new martial arts examination system also involved this young top scholar." Yes. Chenzhe stretched his back and stood up, looking down at the martial arts field through the large French windows. Today was the first day of school. There were already many students practicing martial arts on the martial arts field. There were also many students fighting in the arenas. They invited me when they were discussing, but I didn't go. The opening of the energy vein required a clear mind. For this reason, they had even weakened the role of firearms in their university textbooks. Teaching and educating people should teach them the correct knowledge. I was very disgusted with their behavior, so I didn't go. I didn't expect that I would miss the opportunity to see that magical little top scholar. Now that he thought about it, it was a pity. It's not too late for you to see him now. He just entered the school and hasn't gone through the admission procedures yet. Why are we going to see him now? Open the back door for him. Chenzhe smiled. Or should he tell the others that this was the top scorer of this year's martial arts examination? Little Wang, why do you think there is only one code name for the top scorer every year? If I go to see him now, wouldn't I be telling others that this child isn't simple? Secretary Wang thought for a moment. But he's the top scorer. Shouldn't we give him some preferential treatment? What preferential treatment? Chenzhe turned around and looked at Secretary Wang with a faint smile. This is a school, and our primary goal is to teach and educate people. It's true that the child is the top scorer, but he's still a student first and foremost. Secretary Wang was stunned for a moment. I'm sorry, Headmaster Chen. I just arrived and don't know the rules of the first martial arts school. It's fine. The reason why our school is number one is because we're pure enough. You've just been transferred from the education division, so it's normal that you don't know this. There's no need to see that little top scholar now. He wants to study here. There will be many opportunities to meet him in the future, said Chenzhe. Little Wang, where is his machine alley now? Let me see. Secretary Wang fished out an instrument and fiddled with it for a while. There didn't seem to be any information about him entering the machine alley. Principal, please wait a moment, I'll check. Secretary Wang looked at the surveillance footage near the entrance corridor. After a moment, the young secretary looked up in confusion. Principal, he went around it? Chenzhe. Jiruo, let's hurry up and report. Liang Shixian looked at the dark alley in front of him and dragged his luggage in. Although the alley looked a little eerie, there was a big LED sign on the side that read, "This is the way to register new students." Class monitor, wait a moment. Jiruo stopped Liang Shixian and touched his chin. Don't you think something's wrong? What's wrong with the two? Liang Shixian looked at Jiruo blankly, only to see the light of wisdom in Jiruo's eyes. Yes, Liang Shixian clearly saw the words wisdom and light in Jiruo's eyes. He suddenly felt a toothache. No, when did you change it? Don't mind these details. Jiruo looked down at his feet. He didn't doubt the authenticity of the registration area, but the white line under his feet made it turn in front of the deep corridor and did not enter it. In other words, there was danger in this corridor. Jiruo wasn't afraid, but Liang Shixian had so much luggage with him. He didn't need Jiruo to help him pack his luggage. If he entered the corridor and encountered something messy, whether Jiruo and Liang Shixian were in danger or not was another matter, but Liang Shixian's luggage must be very dangerous. To be safe, Jiruo felt that it was better to go to the dormitory and put away his luggage before coming back. Class President, have you heard of the entrance trial? What entrance exam? That's right. Some of the more awesome schools will arrange a trial that won't endanger their students' lives when they enter the school to see how the students will respond. It was also possible that he was trying to intimidate the students. After all, the students who could get into such a school would probably be somewhat proud. He could first intimidate the students so that they would not be arrogant and impatient. I'll personally prefer the latter. Where did you hear that from? Liang Shixian was a little puzzled. I learned it from reading novels. He glanced at the long corridor and felt that what Jiruo said made sense. Diplomacy speaker's increase in language appeal would passively increase credibility as long as Jiruo's speech had a certain logical basis and theoretical feasibility. After hesitating for a moment, Liang Shixian said, but we're all Chi-Pulse realm martial artists now. Jiruo, you said that even if there's danger, it shouldn't be life-threatening. Nothing will happen to us, but class monitor, where's your luggage? So, let's go to the dormitory and put our things away before coming back to register. Jiruo convinced Liang Shixian, so the two turned around and didn't enter the long corridor that looked like a trap. Where's the dormitory? Liang Shixian asked. Jiruo kicked his shoe away again. This way. Liang Shixian is used to the state of being untainted. Half an hour later, Jiruo and Liang Shixian arrived at the dormitory building and successfully found their own dormitory. The dormitory had been allocated long ago. There were 4 people to a room, and the names of the students were on the dormitory door. Jiruo kicked his shoes all the way, so it was not difficult to find them. If. How do we get in? Liang Shixian knocked on the dormitory door, but there was no one inside. They didn't have the keys because they hadn't registered. Jiruo raised his hand and touched the door. He estimated that with his current iron palm, he could open it with one palm, but it was not good to damage the door on the first day of school. It's okay. Let's wait. The names of the 4 students who should be staying in the dormitory were pasted on the door. Other than Jiruo and Liang Shixian, there were 2 more who hadn't come. Aren't there still 2 who haven't come? Let's wait for them. Liang Shixian still wanted to say something, but Jiruo had already run to the stairs and squatted down. He and Rosie lay on the banister and looked down. Liang Shixian sighed, put down his luggage, and waited with Jiruo. Chapter 116, Chapter 116, About me becoming a senior on the first day of school. Chapter 116, About me becoming a senior on the first day of school. 5 minutes later. Jiruo finally got her first student. This dormitory building was a freshman dormitory building. Those who would come here were all freshmen. Hello, are you a freshman? My name is Jiruo. Jiruo leaned on the handrail of the stairs and waved at the student below. She was the first to greet a new classmate in the new semester. The student seemed to have been startled by Jiruo's sudden voice. He looked up and saw Jiruo lying on the railing of the stairs with a head full of white hair. Beside him was a small black unknown object. To be honest, this scene was still a little scary. The student immediately got into a stance on the spot. Don't be nervous, don't be nervous. I'm a student too. Jiruo was on the 3rd floor, and the student was on the 1st floor. Student, what's your name? Jiruo ran down with Luo Qian in her arms and warmly held the student's hand. Do you need help with your luggage? The student's clothes were tattered, his face was bruised, and he was holding a bottle of emerald green medicinal liquid in his hand. The student looked at Jiruo's strange outfit and hesitated for a moment before saying, My name is Zhang Lun, a freshman luggages don't need to be in a relationship. Zhang Lun looked at Jiruo's fair and handsome face and looked at the dormitory building hesitantly. Senior, are we going to challenge the dorms? Jiruo was stunned for a moment and quickly said, No need, no need. The dormitory is very safe. The young man knew that Zhang Lun might have mistaken him for a senior when he saw that he was not injured and his clothes were fine. Liang Shixian placed his luggage at the door of the dormitory and walked down as well. Hi, classmate. Call me Liang Shixian. Hello, Senior Liang. I don't have any more luggage, so I don't need any help. Zhang Lun said. Liang Shixian was a little confused. How did he become a senior? We don't. Student Zhang Lun, are you okay with your injury? Jiruo asked. It's okay, it's okay. Zhang Lun raised his hand to show the 2 of them the bottle of emerald green medicinal liquid in his hand and said, The 2 seniors just now have already given me some medicine. I'll just go back and apply it myself. Medicine. Liang Shixian looked at Jiruo in shock. There really was an entrance trial. He actually guessed correctly. I see. Jiruo nodded. We won't disturb you then. Goodbye, Zhang Lun. Goodbye, senior. Liang Shixian was still in shock and did not correct Zhang Lun. Jiruo didn't correct him. It was just a form of address. It didn't matter if he corrected him or not. Although he was called a little old for no reason, Jiruo didn't care. Sometimes, suffering was a blessing. Just as Zhang Lun was about to enter the dormitory building, Jiruo saw a freshman with a swollen face walking over while cursing. He quickly ran over and said enthusiastically, "Hello, classmate. My name is Jiruo. What's your name? Do you need help with your luggage?" "What? No, there's no need. My name is Wang Jian, luggage it's already gone." Jiruo passionately pulled Wang Jian towards the dormitory building. "Student Wang Jian, don't worry. The dormitory is very safe. Do you need help applying medicine?" "No, there's no need. Thank you, senior." Jiruo didn't have any injuries, so Wang Jian had misunderstood. "Alright, goodbye, Wang Jian." Jiruo said with some regret. After sincere praise from an elder was completely unlocked, the conditions for obtaining the little red flower were no longer limited to the elders. As long as it was a sincere compliment, Jiruo would receive a little red flower. So he really wanted to help. Zhang Lun hesitated for a moment and said to Jiruo, "Senior, are you here to welcome the new students?" Jiruo thought about it. He and Liang Shixian were waiting for the other two roommates here, and the other two roommates must be freshmen too. "Yes, we are here to welcome new students." Liang Shixian opened his mouth. "Senior, did the school arrange for you to be here?" Wang Jian asked. "I heard from the two seniors that the school will distribute new luggage for us later. All the damaged luggage will be compensated according to the price." Jiruo was an honest child, so he told the truth. "No, we didn't receive any notice from the school. We came here on our own." "Did you come by yourself?" The bruised and swollen Zhang Lun and Wang Jian immediately found Jiruo pleasing to the eye. The resentment accumulated from being beaten up in the machine alley seemed to have been swept away, and their moods became better. The seniors of the first martial arts school are really not bad. They would even come here to welcome the new students on their own accord. This was not a female dormitory. These two seniors were good people. "Senior, you guys are so nice. I'll go back to the dormitory to apply some medicine later. Come over and help me," said Zhang Lun. "Then I'll help too. It's a good opportunity to get to know the other students in advance." "Sure," Jiruo said with a smile. Luo Qian stared intently at Zhang Lun and Wang Jian, her claw subconsciously waving gently. If one looked carefully, they would see that Rosie was drawing the characters Wang and Zhang in the air. It was true that he had learned to be possessed. "Class monitor, look, you didn't do anything wrong by listening to me, right?" Watching Zhang Lun and Wang Jian leave, Jiruo sighed, "Putting aside whether or not you'll be injured, if we really had to register at that time, your luggage would definitely have been lost." Liang Shixian's expression was complicated. Although there wasn't anything valuable in his luggage, it was better not to destroy it if possible. "But Jiruo, how could you lie to them?" "Lie to them? When did I lie to them?" Jiruo looked at Liang Shixian in surprise. "Tell them that we're here to welcome new students. This is the freshman male dormitory. Class monitor, tell me if our new roommate is a freshman or not," Jiruo said. "Yes. Did the school arrange for us to be here?" "It's not." "Then isn't it settled?" Jiruo shrugged. "When did I lie to them?" "But we're still freshmen. He's not a senior." "Is that important?" "I didn't tell them that I'm a senior. They can call me that if they want. I'm just a senior for no reason. I don't care. It was just a title, why did he care so much?" "Class monitor, we martial artists should not be bothered by trifles. How can you use this kind of thing?" Liang Shixian said unhappily. "Why not? Look, class president. They just called us seniors. When they found out that we're here to welcome the new students, weren't they happy?" Jiruo said. "Since they're happy, let them be." Before Liang Shixian could finish, Jiruo turned around and went to welcome the next freshman. "Hello, my name is Jiruo. Is there anything I can help with?" Liang Shixian watched as Jiruo dragged the clueless new student over, asking about his well-being along the way. He heard the other party address him as a senior, and when he found out that he and Jiruo had taken the initiative to come here to welcome the new students, a smile appeared on his face. Liang Shixian touched the admission notice in his pocket in a daze. How did he become a senior on the first day of school? Chapter 117, Chapter 117, This year's freshmen are really united. Chapter 117, This year's freshmen are really united. This was because of Jiruo's enthusiasm and the fact that the two of them did not look like normal freshmen. These two guys did not have any injuries on their bodies, which formed a sharp contrast with the other freshmen's miserable appearance. Therefore, These students in the same grade as Jiruo naturally accepted the setting that Jiruo and Liang Shixian were two kind-hearted seniors. Amidst the senior that was being called, Jiruo's disguise and substitution skills were actually slowly growing. With the addition of foreign affairs speaker, Jiruo and the other new roommates could farm two skills and a title's proficiency at the same time. They couldn't be happier. Perhaps Jiruo's enthusiasm had infected them, as many new students volunteered to stay at the entrance of the dormitory to help welcome the new students. The welcoming team grew larger and larger. Some of the students were in a bad mood because they had suddenly come to an unfamiliar environment and had suffered a loss in the trap alley when they went through the admission procedures. However, as the number of new students increased and they got to know more and more new students, everyone's mood became better. Because they had a common experience, everyone quickly became familiar with each other, especially the freshmen in the same dormitory. They each told their own experiences in the mechanism alley, compared the bruises on their bodies with their classmates, and then laughed out loud. The excitement of leaving their hometown was shattered by the machine alley. They had just arrived and had suffered a setback. Even their hearts had a faint sense of estrangement towards this new environment that they had yearned for a long time. But now, with the help of Jiruo, the weirdly dressed senior, they quickly got to know each other. Everyone was happy to make new friends. Senior Jiruo is so enthusiastic. A student sighed. Every time a new student came, Jiruo would rush up to them at once. No one else could snatch them away. Jiruo was always the first to greet the new student. Yeah, as expected of the #1 martial arts school. The seniors are really friendly to the freshmen. I want to learn from the two seniors. Liang Shixian listened to the discussions of the students behind him and felt uncomfortable. He wanted to tell everyone that he and Jiruo were also freshmen and not seniors. However, the more the students behind him praised him and Jiruo, the more guilty he felt and the more he did not dare to look back. If he were to say it out loud, he would probably be beaten up. Liang Shixian's body trembled when he heard that a student wanted to learn from his two seniors. He recalled Jiruo's words of suffering a loss is a blessing before. Liang Shixian looked at Jiruo, who was welcoming them warmly. Why did things turn out like this? Isn't it just a little luggage? If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have wanted. Thinking of the possible consequences of being exposed, Liang Shixian bitterly picked up the iron skin technique. Hello, classmate. My name is Jiruo, do you need any help? Jiruo grabbed another new student and was as enthusiastic as ever. Was it because the freshmen were too easy to identify? Their faces were swollen and their clothes were tattered. The new student stared blankly at the dozens of students behind Jiruo, who were all bruised and swollen, but were all smiles. Then, he looked at Jiruo, who was completely uninjured. He had also misunderstood. Hello, senior. My name is Dong Lingyun. I don't need any help. Dong Lingyun. Jiruo was pleasantly surprised. I finally waited for you. This was one of his other two roommates. Wait. Dong Lingyun was a little confused. Student Dong, are you done with the admission procedures? Jiruo looked at the other party's disheveled appearance and knew that he must have completed the admission procedures. However, to be safe, he still asked, did you get the dormitory key? It's done. I've also obtained the key. He stared blankly at the large group of freshmen surrounding the dormitory entrance. It's good that you got it? Jiruo happily pulled Dong Lingyun towards the dormitory door. We've been waiting for you for a long time. We've been waiting for you to open the door. The surrounding students were stunned. Opening the dormitory door? Why open the dormitory door? They realized that something was wrong. Senior Jiruo, what year are you in? A freshman asked carefully. A freshman? A freshman? The welcoming team. Everyone was stunned. A freshman couldn't help but ask, aren't you a senior from the upper year? No, when did I say I was a senior? Jiruo looked at him in surprise. But you said you were welcoming the new. Jiruo pointed at Dong Lingyun, ls this my roommate a freshman. I said I was welcoming the new students, am I wrong? Then why did you ask us to call you senior? Jiruo was even more surprised. I didn't give up. Didn't you call me that? Then why didn't you tell us that you're not a senior? You didn't ask. Jiruo shrugged. Don't worry, students. Although I've been called older for no reason, I'm not angry at all. We martial artists don't care about trifles. You still have the nerve to say that. The freshmen were so angry that their noses were crooked. You're a freshman. Why didn't you go through the admission procedures first? Why did you come to the dormitory to pretend to be a senior? Was this something that a man could do? Liang Shixian saw that the situation was not good and quickly pulled Jiruo up. Run. It was not good to stay here for long. Jiruo turned around and shouted at Dong Lingyun, Student Dong, the luggage at the entrance of the dormitory is ours. Please help us take it in. We haven't gone through the admission procedures yet, so we don't have the keys. The welcoming team was enlightened. No wonder the two of them were not injured at all. It turned out that these two fellows did not even go through the admission procedures. They had never entered the trap alley. Dozens of angry freshmen chased after him. Stop. Don't run. If you have the ability to lie, then don't run. Jiruo turned around and said loudly, when did I lie? I didn't say I wasn't a freshman. I'm indeed welcoming the new. The freshmen were even more furious. What's going on? Dong Lingyun was dumbfounded. Jiruo and Liang Shixian were running wildly in front of them, with a large group of freshmen chasing after them. There weren't so many freshmen chasing after them. However, when the two of them ran out of the dormitory area, they were chased by dozens of new students. Some of the new students had just finished their admission procedures and were on their way to the dormitory. When they saw this scene, although they did not understand what was going on, they saw that so many new students were running, so they followed suit. On the first day of school, the freshmen were too recognizable, so the number of people chasing after Jiruo and Liang Shixian grew. There were both men and women. Most of the students didn't know what was going on. It was just that the other freshmen were running, so they followed suit. The first few dozen freshmen didn't have the time to explain anything. They roared and chased after Jiruo and Liang Shixian. Then, it infected the others. Everyone followed suit and shouted, as if they were running exercises and shouting slogans. He was actually quite happy. More and more new students were running around the campus. When Chenzai heard the commotion, he curiously came to the French window and saw the scene. Secretary Wang walked into the office and said with a strange expression, Headmaster Chen. Chenzai smiled as he turned around and pointed at the new students who were roaring and running wildly below. He said happily, this batch of new students are quite energetic. They even spontaneously organized a long-distance run. They're quite united. Not bad, not bad. Secretary Wang's expression became even more strange. He said with a toothache, Headmaster Chen, this is not unity however, if you insist on saying that, it doesn't seem wrong. Oh? What do you mean? It's like this. Chapter 118, Chapter 118, Thoughts, 1. Chapter 118, Thoughts, 1. Chenzai was stunned for a long time after listening to Secretary Wang's story. After a long time, he laughed out loud. Ha ha ha. This little top scorer was really interesting. Principal Chen, what should we do now? Secretary Wang asked with a toothache. Do you need me to stop him? Although we don't restrict the students from fighting each other, this situation is really a little. Now, the number of people chasing after Jiruo and his sister had increased to hundreds. Although most of the people did not know what was going on, they just blindly ran along and shouted the slogan together. Yes, we should indeed stop it. Chenzai looked out of the window happily, but before he could finish speaking, he was stunned again. All right, I'll go now. Secretary Wang said as he prepared to turn around and leave. There's no need, little Wang. Those two children have escaped, Chenzai suddenly said. He escaped. Jiruo. Look at what you've done. What should we do now? Liang Shixian said in exasperation. Don't worry, class president. Just follow me. Everything is under control. Jiruo said confidently. Line of intuition had created a line of life for him in his vision. He only needed to step on the white line under his feet to move forward, and it would be impossible for him to be caught. However, as they ran, Jiruo suddenly realized that something wasn't right. The white line under his feet actually turned a corner not far ahead and stopped abruptly. The finish line. That was the safe place. Jiruo looked back in confusion and saw that among the large group chasing them, only a few dozen people in the middle had angry expressions on their faces. The rest of the people had excited expressions on their faces. Jiruo was enlightened. Liang Shixian gritted his teeth and said, Jiruo, I know the iron skin technique. I'll help you stop them first. You should hurry up and find the teacher. Both of them were martial artists of the cheap pulse realm. Their physiques were strong and their breaths were long. Even though they were running wildly, they were still not out of breath. If it wasn't for the fact that he hadn't learned a brilliant movement technique, he would have escaped long ago. The group of freshmen behind him were mostly level 8 or 9 martial apprentices. Their physical fitness was not bad, and they were able to get into the first martial arts school. They must have grasped all kinds of basic martial arts very firmly. They were as proficient in basic movement techniques as Jiruo and the other two. Although they could not catch up, Liang Shixian could not shake them off either. I can get rid of you, but I find it fun. Furthermore, if they really had to fight, those freshmen would definitely not be able to match up to the two of them, but we were in the wrong first, so we can't fight. I have the iron shirt with me, so they shouldn't be able to do anything to me. I'll take the brunt first, you go find teacher. This was also the reason why Liang Shixian pulled Jiruo and ran away immediately. They were at fault first. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Squad leader, come here. Jiruo suddenly said. With that, Jiruo pulled Liang Shixian, who was still in a daze, and turned a corner. They stood at the end of the white line. Jiruo, what are you doing? They want to catch up. Liang Shixian said anxiously. Before he could finish speaking, he looked at the large group that had been chasing after them running past them with a dumbfounded expression. Jiruo happily waved at the freshmen who were running away. Take care, everyone. Liang Shixian was dumbfounded. He was stunned again. It's a group activity. Class monitor, can't you tell? Jiruo said with some envy, let's go finish the admission procedures later. Then, we'll come and run with everyone. You look quite happy. Liang Shixian was speechless. You still want to run with me? Be a human. In the main group, the dozens of freshmen who felt that they had been deceived turned their heads and roared at the two, they're over there. Then, the rest of the group shouted happily, they're over there. They're over there. Catch them. Catch them. Catch them. You guys are crazy. Are you guys crazy? Are you guys crazy? It was as if he was shouting a chant. Those dozens of people wanted to turn around, but because they were in the middle of the group, they could not turn around at all. They were forced to run forward by the people around them. They roared in the crowd, but the main force was already used to this strange slogan. Most of these freshmen had left their hometown for the first time and arrived in an unfamiliar environment. They were originally arrogant, but they were beaten up when they entered the school. The pride in their hearts was forcefully shattered. At this moment, they were at a loss and helpless. It was under such circumstances that they saw a large group of people. Although they did not know what was going on, they saw that everyone was a freshman. They were running and shouting enthusiastically in the campus. Although he did not understand what had happened, he was still human. When he was at a loss and helpless, he saw a large group of people who had the same experience as him. The sense of immersion immediately came up. Hence, they followed suit. Under this intense exercise, they felt the whistling wind in their ears and listened to the strange slogans of the people around them. It wasn't martial arts practice, nor was it fighting. Their energy was being vented meaninglessly, but they were inexplicably happy. Running high belonged to. The dozens of people in the middle became angrier as they ran. We're chasing after those two shameless bastards. Why are you all blindly joining in the fun? Let me out. A freshman tried for a long time, but he could not run out. The people around him held him up, making it difficult for his feet to touch the ground. He swayed in the air. Let me out. Let me out. The students who were already running high did not know anything and just shouted along. The faint helplessness in their hearts had long disappeared and was replaced by an inexplicable joy. They ran around the campus like wild horses that had lost their reins. The more the freshman thought about it, the angrier he became. The intense anger made his expression abnormally ferocious. Move aside. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Ah! He was about to go crazy with anger. Ah! Ah! The freshmen shouted loudly, wantonly showing their youth to the world. With the support of the seemingly tangible chi, the freshman was burning with anger. He was wrapped in the crowd, and when he turned around, he saw Jiruo standing beside him and waving his hand happily. He instantly exploded in anger. Buzz. A strange buzzing sound rang out, and an invisible vortex suddenly condensed. Chi meridians were connected, and spiritual energy was poured into his head. The freshmen who had been chasing after Jiruo at the beginning all followed suit. The frustration and anger had all turned into a mind that understood everything after the first person who had broken through appeared. Dozens of people broke through their chi meridians almost at the same time. When the other freshmen saw this, they were extremely excited. Their physical fitness had long been enough to open up their energy meridians. What they lacked was just a moment of strong will. Under the influence of the freshmen who had broken through first, the joy of running around had turned into intense excitement. From then on, the mind was connected, and the chi and meridians began to form. The spiritual energy vortex expanded crazily, shattering the clouds in the sky. Jiruo looked at the scene in shock. The scene of hundreds of people breaking through the energy vein was too shocking. Even the sun in the sky seemed to be affected. In a trance, faint veins that were difficult to see with the naked eye appeared around the sun. The sun was surrounded by those veins, as if a heart. Chenze held onto his desk and looked through the French windows at the huge whirlpool of spiritual energy that had appeared because hundreds of people had broken through at the same time. His face was slightly pale, but his eyes were extremely bright. Through the heart, so that was how it was. Be it anger, excitement, intense fear, or the courage to stake everything in a moment of crisis as long as one's will was strong enough, One could open up their chi meridians. Wrong, all wrong. Ha 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 ha. This little top scorer is indeed worthy of his magical name. He gave me such a big surprise on the first day of school. Secretary Wang looked worriedly at the pale and tottering Chen Zhe. Headmaster Chen, are you alright? I'm fine, Ling. Yes, it's just that I'm happy to see so many students break through at the same time. Chen Zhe kept taking deep breaths to adjust his condition. This little top scholar has given me a big gift. He looked at Jiruo in the distance and said, the iron sand palm has reached the acme of perfection, and his saber and sword techniques are also extraordinary. However, it seemed that his movement technique was not that good. Such a genius only knew a basic movement technique. What were those guys from the education department doing? Little Wang, go and tell those new students that our school does not prohibit fighting, but private fights are not allowed. If there are any grudges, settle them in the arena. Alright, Headmaster Chen. I'll do it now. Chen Zhe clapped his hands and smiled. This little top scholar has given me such a big gift, how can I not express my gratitude? He hasn't completed the admission procedures yet, right? Little Wang, make the arrangements. I'll personally go and complete the admission procedures for him. Principal Chen, didn't you say that you wouldn't see him for the time being? Secretary Wang was stunned. You said that we'll have a lot of time to meet in the future. Did I say that? I can't wait. Chen Zhe laughed. I'll wait for him in the traps alley and customize a traps alley for him to see the limits of this little top scholar, haha. As he spoke, Chen Zhe took a step forward, as if he was taking a stroll in the courtyard, and his figure instantly disappeared from the office. It was as if he had directly traveled through space and instantly appeared in the innermost part of the machine alley. Movement technique, carefree travel. He had redefined the traps alley and specially made a new traps alley for Ji. If it was anyone else, they would have directly entered the normal traps alley, but Jiruo once they entered, they would enter this new mechanism alley. The two traps alley were like twin shadows, sharing the same entrance. Only Jiruo could enter the new one. Where can that little top scholar go? I'm really looking forward to it. Chapter 119, Chapter 119, of course, I'm going to complete the registration. Chapter 119, of course, I'm going to complete the registration. When the chi meridians were opened, the spirit chi would cleanse the human body on a large scale, making the physique stronger. In other words, it would make the body more versatile and more adaptable to the spirit chi. It would also be able to use the spirit chi to perform some special martial arts. According to Jiruo's understanding, chi and blood were fuel, and martial arts were the way to use the fuel. The large group had no choice but to stop because it was very painful to cleanse the body. Liang Shixian could not help but shiver when he heard the wailing of the troops. Just now, he was still rejoicing that he had survived the calamity, but now, he could not help but worry. So many people broke through at once. If they still wanted to find trouble with the two of them in the future, Liang Shixian's heart trembled at the thought of that scene. That was hundreds of Chi Meridian Realm warriors. Iron shirt. No shirt could withstand it? Jiruo, what should we do now? Liang Shixian was confused. He felt that his university life had already ended before it had even begun. He hadn't even completed his enrollment. Theoretically, he was not even a student of the first martial arts school. This feeling of a bleak future. Jiruo looked at the screaming crowd and didn't panic at all. It was useless to panic at this time. He had to plan well. Why don't we go over and cheer for them? Jiruo said, look, class monitor. We've all experienced the pain of the spiritual energy cleansing the body when the chi meridian is opened. We can be considered as people who have experienced it. Let's share our experience with them and cheer them on. Perhaps they will forgive us. After all, we're the ones who are called older, and we're the ones who are at a disadvantage. Liang Shixian was stunned. Why are you still talking about this at this time? Just as he was about to speak, Jiruo suddenly touched his chin and vetoed his plan. No, this method won't work. Let me think about it again. The Farzite skill clearly told him that the success rate of this plan was very low. Luo Qian sat on Jiruo's shoulder and also looked like she was deep in thought. Apologize to them. No, beat them up. I can't. Jiruo kept switching plans, participating in the making of each plan. Go find the teacher? The feasibility was not too high either. I'll leave this place first and complete the enrollment registration. Jiruo's eyes lit up. Liang Shixian clearly saw that Jiruo's beautiful contact lenses had turned into two cartoon light bulbs. Before he could complain, he heard Jiruo say, class monitor, it's useless for us to think here. Let's go and complete the enrollment registration first. Liang Shixian was stunned for a moment. Are we just going to ignore it? Aya, you have to eat one mouthful at a time. You have to do things one by one. Luo Qian nodded her head in deep thought. Meow too. A moment later, the freshmen finally survived the first spiritual energy infusion in their lives. Feeling the seemingly endless powerful strength in their bodies, everyone was very excited. Although their physical bodies were still faintly hurting, they were now Chi Meridian Realm martial artists. I finally broke through. I reached the peak of martial apprentice during the holidays, but I have no idea how to open up my energy meridians. What is the connection of mind? It's too abstract. Didn't expect the school to use such a method to help us complete our breakthrough. I see, ha 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 ha. Yeah, I was always lacking before. My dad even spent money to hire the best coach in our city for me, but I couldn't break through. At that time, the coach said that my mind was too messy and not pure at all, so I couldn't break through. I've been so worried during this period of time. I didn't expect it to be so simple. The #1 martial arts school lives up to its reputation. As expected of the #1 martial arts school. I didn't know anything. Seeing that everyone was running, I followed suit. I didn't expect that the more I ran, the more excited I became. I naturally completed the unification of mind and spirit, connecting the meridians. Although I was beaten up by those golems as soon as I entered the school, I was able to break through so quickly. The #1 martial arts school is worthy of its name. This is the best event I've ever participated in. The freshmen excitedly told each other about their joy and praised the first martial arts school for its good teaching. The freshmen who had been chasing after the two of them were still angry, but when they heard the surrounding students praise the planned event of the first martial school, they were dumbfounded. Did they miss something? These new students quickly pulled the students around them and asked, "Student, that school planned event you guys were talking about, what event was it? Why haven't I heard of it before?" "Never heard of it?" The freshmen who were questioned were also stunned. "Did the school inform you to run away?" "No, I didn't." All the students who had called out to Senior Jiruo looked confused. "When did the school inform us to run exercises?" The surrounding students also noticed that something was wrong and asked in puzzlement, "Then why did you run?" The moment this was mentioned, the welcoming team became angry. They angrily told the surrounding students about Jiruo's crimes. After knowing the truth, all the freshmen fell silent. A moment later dash. Ha 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 ha. Pretending to be a senior on the first day of school? This is too showy. Because you didn't complete your registration and didn't get the key to the dormitory, you're waiting for your other roommates at the entrance. They're freshmen, so their roommates must be freshmen too. They said that they were welcoming the new students, but it didn't seem to be wrong, ha 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 ha. F***ing welcome the new. Everyone laughed. The freshmen who had been chasing after the Jiruo duo at the start felt embarrassed. They felt a little awkward in the face of this laughter that did not contain any malice. Then what are you going to do now? Find them and beat them up. The freshman who was questioned thought for a moment and said, "L wanted to do that, but after thinking about it, I gave up. I'm already a Chi Pulse Realm martial artist. They don't even dare to enter the machine alley, so they can't be that strong. I'm not the kind of person who likes to bully the weak. However, after they break through their meridians." Before he could finish his sentence, all the candidates who had completed their enrollment suddenly received a notification from the school at the same time. "Attention, new students, this school forbids private fights. Any grudges must be settled in the arena. No matter who wins or loses, no grudges are allowed after the fight." The student paused for a moment before continuing, "When they break through their meridians, I'll drag them to the arena and beat them until they cry." "Me too. And me. I want to fight too." Liang Shixian and Jiruo arrived at the freshman registration area. That so-called trap alley. At the entrance, there was a long line of new students. Only 3 people could enter at a time. The machine alley was very long, several hundred meters long. The freshmen already knew that this machine alley was a way to test the freshmen. If they wanted to report to school normally, they had to walk through this machine alley. Everyone waited excitedly, rubbing their fists and moving their bodies, ready to accept the trial. There are already so many people in the queue, Jiruo, let's hurry up and line up. If we had known earlier, we would have gone straight in when we came. There was no one queuing at that time. Now Liang Shixian said with some annoyance. The luggage was safe, but Liang Shixian regretted offending a large group of new classmates because of that little luggage. Why would he care about his luggage? How could he not know how capable Jiruo was? This was too f***ing. There's no hurry, class president. Let's take a look first. Jiruo squatted by the roadside and observed carefully. The freshmen were lined up in 3 rows. On average, after a group entered, it would take about 10 minutes for another group to enter. There seemed to be 3 groups of people in the alley at the same time, because the first batch of freshmen who entered would only come out from the exit at the end of the alley after about 40 minutes with bruises on their faces. "Jiruo, are you done?" Liang Shixian patiently waited for Jiruo by the roadside for nearly an hour before he finally couldn't help but urge, If we don't line up now, it'll be dark when it's our turn. It's almost done. Jiruo patted his butt and stood up. Let's go class monitor, let's go register. It should have been like this a long time ago. Jiruo, wait a moment, where are you going? Aren't there 2 doors in this alley? Jiruo was puzzled. Isn't it normal to go to the side with fewer people? Chapter 120, Chapter 120, Number 1 in History. Chapter 120, Number 1 in History. Liang Shixian couldn't stop Jiruo, and he didn't listen to his advice. He could only brace himself and wait with Jiruo at the exit of Machine Alley. Jiruo, let's go and queue up. It's fine if it's late, this is the exit. Who said that? Jiruo glanced at Liang Shixian and asked, Class monitor, where do you see the word exit? Liang Shixian was stunned for a moment. But, those students who completed the procedures all came out from here. Does this mean that this is the exit? Jiruo pointed at the entrance and asked, Class monitor, do you still remember what was written over there? This is the way to the freshman registration area. Did you say that we have to go through the machine alley? It'll take about 40 minutes for a group of people to come out from here after they go in, Jiruo shrugged. Did they go through the admission procedures during these 40 minutes? Class monitor, you've seen those new students. During the time they stayed in the machine alley, they must have been doing other things most of the time. Liang Shixian asked in confusion, what are you doing? Get beaten up. Liang Shixian wanted to say something, but Jiruo's eyes suddenly lit up. Hey, it's out, it's out. The closed door at the end of the alley opened, and a boy with bruises all over his face walked out of the door while cursing. The door was closing, and Jiruo didn't bother to greet his new classmate. He walked in. Class monitor, come quickly. The door is about to close. Liang Shixian opened his mouth but didn't say anything in the end. He sighed and followed. The door closed. This year's freshmen aren't too good. It takes so long to go through the admission procedures, tisk tisk. Behind the door, 2 young men were sitting behind a table and chatting. The other person rolled his eyes and said, come on, we weren't any better back then. Where did your sense of superiority come from? Hee, I'm already a sophomore. When I see these new students, I can't help but want to pretend didn't those seniors treat us like this back then. Another person looked at the registration list and said, so far, the best result for this batch of new students was 33 minutes, which is not bad. In our batch, the best result was only 28 minutes, which is already very close. This batch of new students had yet to finish registering. Let me see yo, there are still a few hundred who haven't reported. There are so many new students this year. There's a problem with the martial arts exam. The admission standards have been lowered, so naturally, there will be more new students. How long do you think it will take for the best student to complete the admission procedures? I can't be sure about that. Then why don't we make a bet? How long does it usually take for a new student to go through the procedures? A senior casually said, sign your name, press your handprint, stamp your name, and give you something to explain. How much time can it take? 1 minute is not enough. The 2 seniors suddenly came back to their senses and turned around with disbelief on their faces. You, who are you? The trap alley was a little gloomy. The 2 seniors did not sense anything, but an unfamiliar voice suddenly sounded behind them. Who wouldn't be angry? Jiruo looked down at the time and grinned, my name is Jiruo, a freshman. I bet that the fastest freshman to complete the admission procedures will take about 3 minutes. Seniors, what should we bet on? Luo Qian was lying on top of Jiruo's head, staring at the ground as if something was attracting her. Liang Shixian stood behind Jiruo and smiled awkwardly. He couldn't understand why Jiruo was so much stronger than him when they were both in the cheap pulse realm. A freshman. The 2 seniors looked at each other. Is this the exit? Jiruo looked back in confusion. There's no label. Senior, we're here to settle the admission procedures. It's our first time in our school, so we don't know anything yet. Jiruo blinked and looked at the 2 seniors pitifully. Her big bright eyes were filled with innocence. Senior, does the school have a rule that I have to come in from there to go through the admission procedures? That is not the case. A senior looked into Jiruo's eyes. Junior, your eyes. It's cosmetic contact lenses. I'm wearing cosmetic contact lenses. It's just a small personal hobby. Jiruo continued to look at the 2 seniors with an innocent expression. Since the school doesn't have such regulations, can the 2 seniors help us with the admission procedures? It's filled with innocence was an adjective. This a senior was a little hesitant. He felt that this junior was not a normal person who would dye their hair white, carry 2 small wooden sticks on their backs, and wear a pair of beautiful contact lenses with the word innocent written all over it. Yes, of course. Another senior opened a list of new students and said, Junior, Your name is Jiruo, right? What was the name of the other junior? I'll make it for you guys. The senior beside him quickly pulled him back and whispered, Du Shang, are you really planning to do it for them? What else? Senior Du Shang said, aren't we here to help our juniors enter the school? Why not? Moreover, the school did not make any rules that one had to pass through the mechanism alley before they could go through the admission procedures. But, oh, Tang Ming, let me tell you secretly. I made a bet before I came. If we go through the formalities for these two juniors and none of them bet on me, I'll earn 60 credits. I'll give you half. Moreover, these two juniors were indeed here, weren't they? There were no rules in school who would have thought that they would come in directly from the exit. We can be considered to be doing things according to the rules. Tang Ming was stunned for a moment. He immediately went through the admission procedures for Jiruo, then gave her a smartwatch and quickly introduced some of the functions of the watch. At the same time, it recorded the time when Jiruo cleared the level. 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Junior Jiruo, congratulations on becoming the fastest student to complete the admission procedures since the establishment of our school. Tang Ming smiled. Du Shang was stunned. Tang Ming ignored him and helped Liang Shixian complete the admission procedures. Then, he said, two juniors, your wristwatches have been activated. If you have any questions, you can directly check them through your wristwatches. This wristwatch is similar to the one used during the martial examination, but it has more functions. If you want to go out, don't go through the entry. There are still students training inside. The strength of the golem has long been set. If the two of you go out from here, it will inevitably affect the experience of the other students. Chapter 121, Chapter 121, There will be chances in the future. Chapter 121, There will be chances in the future. After watching Jiruo and Liang Shixian leave, Du Shang smiled and teased, Tang Ming, I thought you were so serious. Good boy, it seems that you can't resist the temptation of credits. Do you think I'm doing this for academic credits? Tang Ming asked. Isn't it? Not all of them. First of all, you're right, Tang Ming said. The school didn't explicitly state that you're not allowed to enter through the exit, nor did it say that you have to go through the mechanism alley to go through the admission procedures. We didn't do anything wrong. Is that so? Although those two juniors played a little trick, but smart. Tang Ming rolled his eyes. What? Du Shang was stunned. It's true that those two juniors played a trick, but when all the new students were obediently queuing up, they could think of directly entering through the exit. Putting aside the fact that our school has been established for so many years, just take you as an example last year. Can you think of this method? And most importantly, did you notice anything when these two juniors came? Anyway, I don't have it. To be able to avoid my perception and sneak up behind us, these two juniors are not ordinary. Du Shang thought for a moment and nodded, that seems to be the case, not to mention anything else, just based on the strength of the golems this year, with their methods of concealing their auras, they would probably not be able to activate those golems alone. In that case, even if they walk the righteous path, their results will probably not be too bad. I think so too. Moreover, other than these, there's something more important. There's more. Yes, the most important point. Du Shang subconsciously sat up straight and said seriously, please speak. To be honest, I've also made a bet. I can earn 80 points this time, said Tang Ming in a low voice. You said you'd give me half of your money. You can't go back on your word. Du Shang. After the procedures were completed. Jiruo, isn't it a little inappropriate for us to go back like this? I'm afraid those students are still angry, right? Liang Shixian asked hesitantly. Why don't we walk around more? Don't worry, class monitor. The school has issued a notice forbidding private fights. If you have any grudges, you have to settle them in the arena. No matter who wins or loses, no grudges are allowed after the fight. That's why no one will attack us. Jiruo raised his watch. Liang Shixian was a little surprised when he returned to the dormitory. No one really caused trouble for them along the way. Jiruo lowered his head and looked at the white line under his feet. He also dispelled the camouflage effect. It was quite fun to hide and seek while walking. At this moment, the other two roommates were not in the dormitory, so the two of them did not care. Jiruo found her bed, and his name was pasted on it. Liang Shixian began to make the bed. Jiruo waved his hand and the prepared bedding appeared on the bed. Rosie jumped onto the bed and couldn't wait to use her phone to scroll through the short videos. As she scrolled through the videos, she meowed and smiled. Occasionally, she would turn her head to look at the floor. Her expression was a little puzzled, but she didn't say anything. After her confusion, she happily scrolled through the short videos again. Liang Shixian was still making the bed, and Jiruo was studying the watch. The smart wristwatch was like a miniature computer with many functions. It could even project images. Jiruo took out the school rules and regulations from her wristwatch, as well as some information that might be useful, and projected them. The sudden appearance of the light screen made Luo Qian a little curious. However, when she saw the dense text on the light screen, she subconsciously shivered and shrank her neck. Even her meowing laughter weakened a lot. Don't you have a fixed class and classroom? There were many schools in the first martial arts academy, but the students were not divided into fixed classes and schools. They adopted an elective system and could take any class they wanted. There was no special rule that students had to attend classes. It was up to them whether they attended or not. If they took elective courses, they would receive a fixed number of credits for each class. The credits were based on the student's performance in class, the degree of knowledge they grasped, their own conditions, and so on. The number of credits they could receive for each class was not fixed. However, as long as it was a course that he chose, he could get credits. If they chose not to go, their credits would be deducted. Those who didn't get selected could naturally go to class, but they didn't get any credits. New students would get a chance for the teacher to personally analyze their conditions and formulate a class schedule. They could choose classes according to the class schedule, and they could also use the class schedule as a reference to choose the courses according to their preferences. A person's energy was limited, and the time in a day was limited. He had to like her and be suitable for her. After accumulating 1,000 credits, one could exchange for an extremely special training opportunity. However, the wristwatch did not clearly state how special it was. It only briefly mentioned that this kind of training would allow students to grow greatly in a short period of time. Credits could be traded, but other than being used to exchange for a special cultivation opportunity, it was almost useless. After accumulating 1,000 credits and completing that special cultivation, it was equivalent to graduation. Other than credits, there were also points. All the expenses in school cost points. The points could be exchanged with the money that the students brought with them. They could also be earned by completing some small missions issued by the school, or by fighting in the arena, simulated battles, and so on. By the way, the exchange ratio between money and points was 1,000:1. The school actually did not support the exchange. There was another sentence following the description. I don't want my students to be filthy rich. People will like many things in their lives, but young people shouldn't only see benefits. Chenzhe. The course selection system. Class monitor, what class do you plan to take? Jiruo asked Liang Shixian. Liang Shixian thought for a moment and said, my iron skin technique is already close to the mastery realm. However, my attack methods and movement techniques are still a little weak, so I should focus on these three directions. As for the specifics, it was better to wait for the teacher to help analyze it before making a decision. What about you? Jiruo looked at the courses available for freshmen and said, I want to take a look at modern weapon theory and combat. It seems to be teaching firearms. Guns. Liang Shixian nodded and said, I also plan to choose. In the documentaries that I've watched before, the use of firearms is not small. I just don't know why the descriptions of firearms in high school textbooks are so weak. I once asked Teacher Li, and he said that I would understand when I went to university. Then let's choose together. Gu Xingzhou had told him that the descriptions of firearms in the textbooks before university had been modified. He suggested that Jiruo should attend a course on modern firearms when she went to university, regardless of whether she was interested or not. Yes, let's choose together. The two of them discussed for a while and simply formulated a class schedule that they felt was more suitable for themselves. They didn't choose the course directly. They planned to ask the teacher for help tomorrow to analyze it before making a decision. At night, Chenzhe sat at the end of the empty machine alley, feeling slightly puzzled. Why isn't that child here yet? After some thought, he called Secretary Wang. Little Wang, where is that little top scholar now? Wasn't he going to go through the admission procedures? Or was he afraid of the freshmen and didn't dare to come? Principal Chen, Secretary Wang said with a slight toothache, the admission procedures for that top scholar have been completed a long time ago. I thought you knew about it? Done. That's not right. Chenzhe was a little confused. If he entered the Traps alley, I would definitely know. However, the Traps alley that I customized for him has never been opened before. He entered the mechanism alley from the exit. He's now the fastest person to complete the admission procedures since the establishment of our school. He took less than 3 minutes. The two alleys shared the same entrance. Chenzhe was stunned for a long time before he suddenly sighed and said, maybe it's not fate. Forget it, he still has to study here. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Chapter 122, Chapter 122, Classmate, your punch is wrong. Chapter 122, Classmate, your punch is wrong. Jiruo had just woken up when his smartwatch received a message. From today onwards, our school will implement a morning exercise system. Whether or not to participate is entirely voluntary. Every time you participate in the morning exercise, you will receive a fixed amount of credits. The format of the morning exercise will be determined by yourself. After that, there were some rules regarding morning exercises. For example, one had to complete a certain amount of exercise in a specific venue within a specific time. The smart wristwatch would record it. These credits were almost free. Which martial artist did not practice in winter and summer? Getting up early to train was a basic skill. From today onwards. Didn't the first martial arts school have morning exercises before? Jiruo was confused. I don't know, but since I'm a special notice, then I should be a special notice, right? Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that the school is specifically informing us new students. Liang Shixian said as he washed up, Jiruo, you should get up too. Let's go for our morning exercise first, then we'll go and take a look at those classes. Alright. Jiruo got up and saw Luo Jian lying on the bed staring at the ground. He didn't know what this little girl was doing. He raised his hand and rubbed little Luo Jian's head. What does Rosie want to eat? Rosie suddenly perked up. It's not good for your body to eat such heavy food early in the morning. Meow dash, then I'll eat fried dried fish. Even if it's oily, it won't do. Drink milk, haha. Rosie was stunned for a moment. If I'm not allowed to eat this or that, then why are you asking me? Jiruo looked at the two beds that had obviously not been moved and asked, class monitor, didn't our two new roommates come back last night? It seems to be. After washing up, the two of them went downstairs. Jiruo operated the smart wristwatch, and a green arrow was projected on the wristwatch, guiding the two of them to the morning exercise area. When Luo Jian saw this, she immediately raised her small phone and said, Meow dash, master, your watch is amazing. I want to exchange it with you. Haha, you can't change that. Jiruo rubbed her little head and smiled. Moreover, even if I change it for you, your small arms and legs won't be able to wear it. That's strange. Little Rosie, you should have the characteristics of a monster's rapid evolution, right? He had eaten so much demon beast meat during this period of time. Why was he still in the infant stage? Judging from Rosie's current performance, this little fellow didn't seem like a low-grade skewer. Little Rosie immediately avoided her gaze. Meow dash I don't know either. In the dormitory manager's office on the first floor, the dormitory auntie had already arrived. She saw Jiruo with white hair and suddenly said, White hair, with a little black kitten student, you must be Jiruo. Ah, it's me. What's the matter, auntie? Is it because the dormitory doesn't allow cats? Auntie, my cat is very obedient. It's fine, it's fine. It's okay to keep a cat. I just wanted to tell you that two of your roommates moved out yesterday. Moved out? Why? Liang Shixian's face darkened. If I hadn't participated in it myself yesterday, I would have moved out too. He had offended so many new students on the first day of school. How was he going to attend school? Jiruo smiled and scratched his head. The students passing by pointed at Jiruo. After a night, Jiruo's feet and physical features had almost spread throughout the freshman male dormitory. Many people sneered at Jiruo. It was as if they had made an agreement. They just sneered and didn't say anything. After thinking about it, Jiruo also sneered at them. Good morning, students. Jiruo sneered. The students were all confused. Who would sneer and greet him at the same time? Also, what are you laughing at? We are isolating you. Can't you tell? What's with that fan-shaped chart in your eyes? There seem to be words. Jiruo immediately gave these students a hard time. The white-haired young man laughed and said to the dormitory auntie, Thank you for telling me this, auntie. Goodbye, auntie. We're going for our morning exercise. Go, hee hee. What an interesting child. The dormitory auntie smiled. This auntie was a good person. She gave Jiruo a little red flower as soon as they met. Jiruo was in a good mood and left the dormitory humming a tune. The dormitory auntie watched Jiruo leave and suddenly clenched her fists. She muttered to herself with some excitement, I was the first to see him. Humph, so what if it was headmaster? I'm still not first. When they arrived at the morning exercise venue, there were already many people doing morning exercises. As the group morning exercise could earn an additional point, which was equivalent to the school treating them to breakfast, there were many people who formed groups for morning exercise. Morning jogs, punches. Because the school did not restrict the types of morning exercises, the students had a variety of morning exercises. Many students who came later saw that there were already quite a number of teams training in the morning, so they simply chose one to join. Liang Shixian was about to ask Jiruo how to practice, but Jiruo's eyes lit up and he pulled him towards a square formation. There's also Tai Chi. Let's go, class monitor, let's go practice Tai Chi. Previously, when he was selling martial techniques, Jiruo had sold all the martial techniques he could sell. Even Iron Palm Manji had the copyright and received a large sum of copyright fees. He didn't expect that there would be students practicing Taiji Fist in the university. What a pleasant surprise. Credits, points, proficiency, he wanted all of them. The two of them mixed into the group and began to practice their boxing slowly with the main group. Student, your punch is wrong. Jiruo was still practicing when a senior walked over and said to Jiruo seriously, although the school doesn't have a compulsory morning exercise subject, we can't do it recklessly. Taiji Fist isn't practiced like this. Student, from the looks of it, you probably haven't learned Taiji Fist before, right? The way you're fighting is not a good way to fight on the ground. Tai Chi focuses on self-cultivation. It has to be slow and slow. Your punches are so specious and have too much killing intent. However, it doesn't matter. Taiji Fist hasn't been implemented for long. It's normal that you don't know it. I can teach you. Jiruo was dumbfounded. Teach me. I was the one who sold this fist technique. Liang Shixian had been detained by the hospital during the holidays, so he naturally did not know that Taiji Fist was created by Jiruo. Thank you, senior. We really don't know Taiji Fist. It was easy to tell if he was a senior or not. A freshman had just entered school, and his face was still bruised. The senior nodded and said, "You're welcome. This Taiji Fist is not difficult. Although the moves are simple, it can have a very good training effect." Chapter 123, Chapter 123, Change to another class. Chapter 123, Change to another class. The senior got into position and said as he demonstrated, "This fist technique was only recently incorporated into the education system, and I only learned it not long ago. However, I personally feel that this fist technique is more suitable for daily cultivation than other martial arts. The movements are light and slow. Not only will it not leave any hidden injuries, but it can also have a certain recuperation effect. This student, you're practicing wrong. This fist technique focuses on self-cultivation. Why is your killing intent so strong? Look at me." Thinking about it, it made sense. This senior was practicing the simplified version of the 24 forms of Taiji Fist, while Jiruo was practicing the complete Taiji Fist. How could they be the same? The simplified 24 forms naturally focused on self-cultivation and cultivation. They were almost non-lethal. The key was that the 24 moves wouldn't increase his proficiency. Therefore, Jiruo always subconsciously wanted to play a complete set. The senior corrected Jiruo's fist path over and over again. As he taught, he even became angry. "Why are you so stupid? This wasn't the way to punch. Learn from me." He had never been so speechless in his life. Being corrected over and over again, not to mention the senior, Jiruo's anger was also aroused. This Tai Chi did not have any effect on cultivating one's body and mind. The more the young man fought, the more aggrieved he became. "Senior, why don't you learn from me? My method is better than yours. Not only can it help you cultivate your character, but you can also help others repair it." However, before he could say anything, the smart wristwatch suddenly beeped. After the morning exercise, 1 credit and 1 general point were transferred to his account. The senior raised his watch and glanced at it. He said resentfully, "LVE never seen someone as stupid as you. You can't even understand a few moves. My name is Joe Yishu. I have to go to class now. If you come here tomorrow, I don't believe that I can't teach you." With that, Senior Joe ran off to class. "Remember to come tomorrow. I'll teach you boxing. You can go back and train yourself." Liang Shixian sighed, "This Senior Joe is really a good person." That's right, Jiruo was speechless. He hadn't been able to perform a complete set of punches throughout the entire morning exercise. Joe Yishu had been correcting him. If it weren't for the fact that this was a martial art rewarded by the system, that kind-hearted Senior Joe would have almost failed to teach him. Most importantly, he had good intentions, so Jiruo couldn't say anything. "But Jiruo, you're finally like a normal person." Liang Shixian smiled. Previously, whether it was palm techniques, saber techniques, or sword techniques, you were like a demon. L thought you were one of those rare martial arts prodigies in novels, haha. It doesn't matter if your boxing talent is not good. Let's learn slowly. I'll accompany you. Class monitor, let me explain. It's okay, I understand. Liang Shixian patted Jiruo's shoulder and said, "Your iron palm has reached the acme of perfection and has already surpassed many people. It doesn't matter if you can't do fist techniques." Jiruo sighed heavily. "Forget it. Let's go experience the class we scheduled last night first. Rosie, let's go." This little fellow had been squatting by the roadside and staring at the ground. No one knew what he was looking at. Meow dash, coming 9. Every class in the first martial arts school was a big class, and each classroom could accommodate up to 100 people at the same time. From the outside, those classrooms looked like normal classrooms. However, only when one entered would one realize that the classrooms were circular and shaped like stairs. The podium and teachers were in the middle of the classroom, the place with the lowest altitude. Miraculously, no matter where the students sat, they felt that the teacher and the blackboard were always facing them. Liang Shixian lacked offensive means, and Ji Ruo also wanted to systematically learn more profound martial arts theory, so their first class was a sword technique class. They walked into the classroom and sat down at random. In the middle of the circular classroom, the teacher was explaining the theory and cultivation methods of a sword technique. From time to time, he would call a few students to the podium to carry out simple battle simulations. This sword art teacher explained the profound in simple terms. The principles were interlinked and easy to understand. The students listened with great interest. Ji Ruo was removed from office. Class monitor, why don't we change classrooms? He could not help but say. It wasn't that he didn't respect his teacher, but that his teacher was currently teaching the broken arrow style. The sword technique that he had sold. Liang Shixian knew that the sword technique was created by Ji Ruo, so he was a little embarrassed and said, all right, then let's go listen to the saber technique. The sword arts teacher seemed to have noticed Ji Ruo. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he muttered softly, I'm second. As for the saber technique, it talked about the combination of breathing techniques and moves. The emphasis was on the full concentration breathing thunder and the gale sword technique as well as their matching breathing techniques. Ji Ruo had combined all the basic breathing techniques he knew at that time and a little imagination to create the full concentration breathing technique with the help of the sword and sword duality buff card bug. Apart from its name, it did not have much to do with the real full concentration breathing technique. It also integrated the advantages of many basic breathing techniques and could greatly stimulate the potential of the human body. It could even allow a martial apprentice to display the strength of a Chi Meridian realm martial artist. The effects of this breathing technique are not limited to this. Its general framework refers to a total of 27 basic breathing techniques. It covers a wide range and can be said to be all-rounded. Furthermore, it wasn't just these breathing techniques. There were also a lot of blank spaces in the framework. If any of you are interested, you can try to incorporate some higher-level breathing techniques into them after you master them. The person who created this breathing technique had such a wonderful idea that he was amazed. The teacher stood on the podium and praised him generously. After Ji Ruo received a small red flower, the more he listened, the more uncomfortable he felt. He had a feeling that the teacher was staring at him. However, Ji Ruo felt uneasy. He had a feeling that this teacher was doing this on purpose. He wasn't sure before he came in, but after he came in, this teacher's praise for the creator of this breathing technique was really too concentrated. Liang Shixian was quite fascinated, but seeing Ji Ruo so uncomfortable, he hesitated and said, why don't we change to another one? The saber teacher's lips also curled up slightly. The next fist technique was Taiji fist. Palm technique, it talked about the new cultivation method of the iron palm. Staff technique, teaching the dog beating staff technique. After changing classrooms several times, Ji Ruo braced himself and sat through 2 hours of lessons, listening to a martial arts theory class. Nearly 90% of the martial arts theories mentioned in this class were related to Ji Ruo. He had long known those things, and many of them were even sold by him. It wasn't easy for her to endure until the end of the class and the credits were settled. Part 5 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.